Welcome to the Vault XL, everyone. Thank you. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Now we are into a new week. Blessings to everyone. The movie of the week is The Assistant, now playing on Tubi. The starring actress in this film, who's playing a doctor needing an assistant. She also played in Stepmother 1 and 2. If you are interested, The Assistant, now playing on Tubi. Court TV is the source. This Bryan Kohberger update is pertaining to the state seeking the death penalty, DNA linkage to him, and also the gag order being loosened. Thank you for your time. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $Beganji, 129 Cash App, stickers and chat to welcome during the live stream. This is a two-part live. Bryan Kohberger update plus this Susan Lorincz character in Florida. No charges will be filed for her murdering an African-American woman who she shot through her front door. Two-part live.
Start off this hour in the state of Idaho, where Bryan Kohberger's defense team is pushing back and pushing back hard, let me tell you, against DNA evidence that allegedly places him at the scene of that quadruple homicide. Now, the state of Idaho has revealed through court documents that Bryan Kohberger is a statistical match to DNA recovered from the knife sheath found at the scene of the crime, saying in part, quote, "We already knew that Kohberger's father was linked to the knife sheath. The FBI further compared DNA from the sheath to a cheek swab of the defendant and determined it was a match." Now, Kohberger's attorneys are responding to the claims, accusing the state of Idaho of hiding its entire case. And there's more. And they're rejecting the notion that they are expected to just accept at face value that the sheath contained touch DNA belonging to Bryan Kohberger. So the defense team goes on to say, quote, "There's no connection between Mr. Kohberger and the victims. There is no explanation for the total lack of DNA evidence from the victims in Mr. Kohberger's apartment, in his office, in his home, or his vehicle." There's no doubt this knife sheath is going to play a pivotal role, my courty friends, when this case goes to trial. The Gonsalves family attorney, Shannon Gray, who you've seen on Court TV before, spoke about this previously. He talked to us about the importance of the knife sheath to this entire case. Take a listen to what he said.
That was a pretty lengthy probable cause affidavit. It's one of the lengthiest ones I've ever seen. But I think they were very, they wanted to provide as much information as they could to establish probable cause, and it laid out a little bit of the state's case, how they might proceed on the case at trial. But there's a lot of still other circumstantial evidence that will be gathered between now and the trial date. You still have 3 other crime scenes. You have his apartment, you have the car, you have his parents' house that all need to be processed for evidence of the crime, and then any other evidence that comes in between now and then. But the probable cause, I thought that, it was well done. I think the biggest piece of evidence that jumps out to you is the DNA evidence on the sheet. I think that's the one piece of evidence that will be hard to explain as a defense attorney on the case. So I think that's the biggest piece of evidence.
Okay, so Shannon Gray's reaction there. Let me bring in my guest on the program this morning to talk a little bit more about this. In Silver Spring, Maryland, trial attorney Michelle Thomas, and in Washington, D.C., trial attorney and the host of the podcast Mom Life and Law, Megan Whiteside. Good morning to you, ladies. Thanks for being on the show this Monday morning. Okay, first, let me get your quick reactions to what Kohberger's defense team is doing, saying, wait a minute, we're just supposed to accept the state's evidence. Why isn't there DNA anywhere else in the car, in the home, in his office, yada, yada, yada. Michelle Thomas, what do you think about what the defense is saying here, please?
Good morning, Julie. Good to be with you. So they're doing their job. Yes, they have to make the argument and push back at every possible turn, including DNA evidence. However, the argument is pretty baseless, and I expect it to go nowhere. DNA evidence on the knife sheath is certainly at the crux of the case in terms of linking this defendant to the crime. And so to expect to have that excluded or somehow allege that there's prejudice to the defendant is just really, really a stretch, Julie.
I appreciate it, Michelle. Megan Whiteside, same question to you. Your initial reaction hearing what the defense team is saying, please.
The defense is grasping at straws here because this is going to be the most compelling evidence, I imagine, to a jury in this trial. And what we can expect is that the state is going to argue that this goes to weight and not admissibility. That's a fancy way of saying the defense can attack this evidence through cross-examination of the DNA expert, by bringing their own DNA expert, but really the arguments they're making are not arguments that should persuade a judge to throw this evidence out.
I appreciate it, Megan. I'm just thinking to myself as I hear this, as you ladies so well said, yes, the defense team has to make these arguments. Yes, their concern is representing him, and depending on what the state moves for in terms of seeking the death penalty, this might become a case where they're working to just save his life. We'll see. So they've got to do all this or else they're going to be ineffective. You ladies know there's something called ineffective assistance of counsel. These claims can be made if you don't make sure you leave no stone unturned, so to speak. And so they've got to attack it. However, when you think about it, and just logically, I'm not even talking as a lawyer. It's like, is Bryan Kohberger the unluckiest guy in the whole world that, his car is seen at their house 12 times. There's messages sent via DM to some of these victims. He's wearing gloves when he's back at his parents' home in Pennsylvania.
Exactly. Thank you.
His DNA happens to be on the sheath at the crime scene between Maddie and Kaylee's bodies. Is he that unlucky? Did somebody take his knife sheath and just decide to drop it there to try to implicate him? Come on. Okay, and let's look at this here. This is from the state's motion, laying out the factual background here, one of their motions, but this was a recent one, regarding the DNA, the new developments. And they're talking about how, that knife sheath, is found on a bed next to the bodies of Maddie and Kaylee, best friends, roommates, sleeping in the same bed on that night that they were both murdered. The sheath, found face down, partially underneath Maddie's body, as well as the comforter on the bed. So that's where it was placed. Now, the defense team in their motion has said some other things. They're saying, quote, in part, lab analysts were aware of 2 additional males' DNA within the house where the deceased were located, and another unknown male's DNA on a glove found outside the residence. Further, these 3 separate and distinct male DNA profiles were not identified through CODIS, that's the big national system where you can do legal comparisons, leading to the conclusion that the profiles do not belong to Mr. Kohberger. Okay, so Michelle Thomas, knowing that this house is a party house, that was one of the biggest things we talked about at the outset, how tough it's going to be to sort through that DNA. Knowing that, what do you think when you read the paragraph we just showed about what the defense team is saying? Other men's DNA is around and you guys aren't looking at it. Why do you think that is, that the state isn't focused on it?
Yeah, because there's too much other circumstantial evidence that points in the direction of Mr. Kohberger. So it doesn't explain, to your point, why his car was outside of their home at least 12 times near the time of the crime. The behaviors we saw him on video, having been stopped by the cop those 2 additional times, the searches that occurred at their home in Pennsylvania. I mean, there's just too much here that links this particular defendant. And so the state is not going to go down this rabbit hole that the defense would have them and this alternative culprit theory, because it really doesn't make any sense. His DNA was on the knife sheath. The knife was used as part of the crime. And so all roads still point in the direction of Mr. Kohberger.
Right, Michelle. I mean, the driving of the car, to me, that's like some of the most damaging evidence. They're concerned about the DNA. Megan White said, how about how they've got him? They've got his route all mapped out, how he goes to the house, middle of the night. He's there in the window that these homicides were committed, according to his car's, the black box in there that has the GPS, and they show the route he goes all around, maybe to dispose of the knife. I don't know. Prosecutor's going to say it. Megan, what do you think about the defense saying that, you didn't look at this other male DNA?
The defense's job is to find an argument and some evidence to back it up that can go to support reasonable doubt. The standard in a criminal case is beyond a reasonable doubt. And so the defense has got to do their best to try to create some argument that a jury would be convinced, okay, this is reasonable doubt. The government did not investigate these other sources of DNA. But I think what you pointed to in terms of this is a house next to a college campus. They have parties there. We would expect to find multiple DNA sources from individuals not living within the home. That's just to be expected. And really a coincidence upon a coincidence upon a coincidence for Mr. Kohberger is no coincidence here. I think the government has a really strong case.
Perfect note to end on. Megan White said, thank you for that. Yeah, this guy, he's the unluckiest guy in the world, isn't he? All this just happening to him. We're going to continue talking about this. By the way, Kohberger's going to be hearing on Tuesday. Some of these motions are going to be hashed out. We are, of course, going to be there for that hearing. We're going to talk more about it.
Hearing set for Tuesday, everybody. I'll bring you that set update. Let's chop up what was said during this court TV segment. The defense says 2 other DNA profiles, male profiles, were found inside of the house and outside. So let's go there. So what? What's your point? Were these DNA found anywhere else pertaining to the victims? That's what you have to ask Miss Ann Taylor. Yes, she has to create reasonable doubt. So let's go there. The infamous glove found outside. OJ did it. Oh, OJ wasn't there. Chris Madonna found it. So whose DNA was on that glove that was outside? I'll wait. Inside, one other male. Out of all the trafficking running in and out of this house, one male. Why would Mr. Kohberger's DNA be on a sheath with a knife missing, mind you? 4 people stabbed to death, missing knife. 9 times out of 10, the knife went in the sheath, which is a case to hold the knife. They have records that Mr. Bryan bought a knife online before coming to the Pacific Northwest. 9 times out of 10, he brought that knife to the Pacific Northwest, to Washington State, and over there to Moscow, Idaho, to kill these kids. Nothing found in his home, his office. Well, I wouldn't expect to find anything in his office, Miss Taylor. And maybe that's what he was doing on this map that you all have laid out in this court TV segment, disposing of things such as clothing, gloves, because you're going to leave a trace of something somewhere when you get inside of a car. So what am I to believe? Ms. Dillon said he walked by her out of the door, the glass door. So what am I supposed to believe? He went and changed outside naked and changed into clothes. He brought a bag with him and he threw it on the side of the wall. And then when he killed everybody, he came out and changed out there naked. Is that what you're saying, Miss Ann Taylor? Help me understand. And as you hear this commentator saying, his schedule's mapped out through GPS. And he was doing something, Miss Taylor, before returning home, Miss Taylor, where his phone just miraculously starts to ping, Miss Taylor. He was in the general area of the house before the deaths, Miss Taylor. Returned to the scene of the crime, GPS once again, Miss Taylor. Seen on surveillance, Miss Taylor. Miss Taylor, Miss Taylor, Miss Taylor. Stop the BS. Just stop it. So you really don't have anything to use as an alternative because the male DNA, you don't even have a lot of it. So you're down to 3 people, Kohberger and 2 other people. And outside, it's free range to be anybody outside. Anybody can walk by and lose a glove. So basically, you're saying one other person then. Because you can't really say the DNA outside on that glove has anything to do with anything in the house. If you don't get another match of that DNA inside of the house, Miss Taylor. See, I'm woke. Going in someone's DM and they just so happen to be hacked up. Allegedly didn't respond to him. So when they say connection, you can weigh it different ways. connection, we talk, we visited, we know of each other, or DNA connection. Your DNA's at the house, on a doorknob, on a sheath, on a rag, fingerprint, latent print, shoe print. See where I'm going? He was there. And as you hear in his commentary, you weren't there, but you sure went home, finished your courses, and you're walking around your own damn house using plastic gloves, and a certain type of plastic glove, not your ordinary latex gloves. They're a specific kind. And school them, Queen. It's the type of glove you wear when you're doing vigorous work, such as hacking up strange people. Not quick to puncture type gloves. Am I making myself clear? So explain that, Miss Taylor. Why somebody who grades papers for a living, doesn't do any vigorous work, doesn't work out in the field as a carpenter, construction work, doesn't do any medical work, doesn't work at a lab, doesn't work at a hospital. What does he need with these certain type of latex gloves? I'll wait. Father's DNA linked to his DNA on the sheath. But that ain't no big deal. Oh, it is a big deal. Because you see, the thing about blood, it's just like hair, anything else. You don't think you dropped something somewhere or rubbed against something because you can't see it. And if he wore all black or black clothing, I'm sure there's some type of DNA on the clothes. So where are the clothes that he wore? I'll wait. Getting inside of the car, as I said, did he get in the car with the bloody clothes on? You're transferring things from outside of the house. Lint, blood, dog hair, anything. Transference. Now imagine if we find out there's some dog hair mixed in, which we did hear that. And it's a mate to the dog that one of the girls had. So what would that dog hair be doing in your house, your car, Mr. Kohberger? And another thing, since it ain't you, why did the judge put in a plea as not guilty? Because if I know I didn't kill these kids, hello, anybody home? I'm going to break my neck and jump up and down. I am innocent, Your Honor. Not guilty. You remain mum when it was time to enter a plea. Why would you do that? See, you're playing mind games with the court. That's what's going on here. You and Ann and her sidekicks are playing games. And next thing we know, you're going to uphold some stuff. By the time October get here, you ain't going to be ready. Now you want to say they hiding stuff from you. You crying about the grand jury selections and you ain't get to do this. You didn't get to do that. Woe is me. But I tell you what. Ding, 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 ding. Your client is still locked up. Your client ain't got no bond. How about that? Since he's so innocent. Why he ain't got no damn bond? Because all the ducks lined up in a row, Miss Taylor. And the odds are stacked against your client. And maybe in certain areas he was careful. I don't know, because naturally I don't see the state giving all their eggs up before trial. Last I checked, they kind of hold all that to the vest. So you're sitting here talking about ain't nobody giving you nothing and they ain't got no connection to him and the girls and blah, blah, blah. Well, I bet you that latent shoe print is the same size as his big foot. How about that? And the victims fought back. So God forbid the girls got false fingernails on. Ding, 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 ding. Your friend DNA is up under somebody's fingernails. Fake nails or not, Miss Taylor. you really aren't that bright for an attorney. These games you're trying to play with the state. And they are seeking the death penalty now. So I think all this whistling Dixie, you might want to talk to Mr. Kohberger. Mr. I can't enter a plea. Bruh, you need to say, yeah, I did that. And I want my life spared. So maybe one day he'll decide to open his mouth and tell some nice little network why he killed these kids and save the parents and the community the agony of going forward with the trial. But he has a God complex, and I do believe you do too, Miss Taylor. So he wants to hear everything because this is his crowning glory moment. I'm finally somebody. I'm finally important. They're talking about me on TV, YouTube. I'm getting validated. Hell yeah, I want to be in that courtroom. I want to hear every dirty detail against me. Even if I don't like what they're saying, I don't agree with what they're saying, I want to hear what they have against me. How I got caught, my stupid self. I want to hear it. And they did take things out of his apartment, Miss Taylor. Pillowcase had some type of brownish red stain on it. What might that have been, Miss Taylor? He was shaving. Just stop the nonsense. And for those of you who believe there's this rare chance he didn't do it, good luck with that. See, the one thing the Queen is not going to do, I'm not going to argue with you about DNA on a sheath and whatever else the state has. And because you haven't heard it does not mean there's not something that they have against Mr. Kohberger and that crime scene. Because you forgot one little thing about Mr. Kohberger. He was a busy bee when he touched down on Washington soil. So you don't really know what he was doing from Moscow to Pullman, Washington. And that's going to be the gist of the story. What you don't know. All the places he's been. He's been busy. And you better hope nobody else comes out with a rendition of somebody stalking and peeping around their doorway and windows. Oops, oops. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, we do. We have a colleague that believes he's been in her apartment moving things about. So you better hope that doesn't make its way into the courtroom, Miss Taylor. Oh, I know there's no knife, but that sheath belonged to a knife. Ding! And it's up under a dead person's body. Ding! And her wounds are exemplary of a knife. Ding! Her death was ruled homicide, Miss Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. Ding, 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 ding. So what are the rest of you missing? He wasn't their friend. He didn't hang with them. He didn't know them. Vice versa. So what the hell is his DNA doing up under a dead girl's body? I'll wait. Who the hell wants to argue that? Doesn't even live in Moscow, but his DNA is up under a dead person. And then you got somebody saying he fits the profile of the person that walked past them, exiting through the hallway, out through the kitchen to the back door. So who was that, Miss Taylor? His doppelganger? Just stop it. You know that man killed those kids, and he knows he killed those kids. That's why he did not enter in a plea. But now that he heard that the death penalty is on the table, the best thing for his own benefit, he should try to save his life, preserve his life. Because going through a trial is disturbing and it's sickening for the parents, the relatives, because they have to hear all that gory stuff about how their child died. He's going to get a jolt out of it, but they're not. That's a lot to endure, hearing how your child suffered, gravely suffered. Nobody there to help ward this monster off of them. And some of them did have defensive wounds as to try to preserve their life, but they didn't win. These are the games that they play, the perpetrator and the defense attorneys. It's always somebody else. I don't think so. Let's get to the next commentary pertaining to Mr. Kohberger. Thank you for joining me, everybody, in the chat. Welcome all new viewers, subs. Let's see what else I have on the table. Something about a gag order. Here we go. One second, everybody. Get my information queued up here. One second. I see News Nation got more stuff going on. This next commentary is by News Nation pertaining to the gag order.
In the case of Bryan Kohberger, the presiding judge is making changes to the gag order. You will remember it barred almost everyone from talking about the case before. Well, under this new gag order issued now, prosecution and defense attorneys can now speak on some matters related to the case, but they must still follow strict guidelines to preserve Kohberger's right to a fair trial. Now, Kohberger is accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho college students last year. He is facing first-degree murder and burglary charges in connection with their stabbing deaths. And the changes come as prosecutors announced that Kohberger's DNA is a statistical match with the DNA that was found on the knife sheath that was left at the crime scene. Joining us now to get more perspective, Jesse Weber, News Nation legal contributor. Jesse, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about that new DNA evidence indicating Kohberger is a match for the DNA that was found on that sheath at the murder scene. The defense claiming that they are unaware of this. Does that strike you as strange? Because aren't they entitled to all of this information?
Look, the defense is doing and saying what we expected them to do, right? They are facing an uphill battle with this monumental development, and you couple that with the surveillance footage, you couple that with the cell phone evidence. And they are making a good point because they're saying that the prosecution is keeping information away from them. And at the end of the day, that's a legal argument. It'll be up to the judge to determine whether or not the prosecution has to turn over more materials to the defense. But we have to be clear about what they're doing here. They are actually previewing what their defense is going to be. Well, how exactly did law enforcement get this material? Did they do anything improper? Did they really have probable cause? Because the best case scenario for them would be to make sure this evidence doesn't come into trial if law enforcement did something improper. And 2, if it does come in, they're saying, well, how accurate is it? We have a right to understand the science behind this and understand how it was obtained. And we'll call our own experts and ask our own questions about how reliable genetic genealogy is, because that's the key right now to the prosecution's case.
Okay, I appreciate that insight. And you know, we're hearing that prosecutors are consulting the victims' families on the death penalty. And so far, Xana's mother favors life in prison. Meanwhile, Kaylee and Madison's family members, they are seeking the death penalty. First of all, how common is it for the prosecution to get the family's input? And what does happen when the families are not in agreement?
It's incredibly common. And look, really what the prosecutors have to do is say they respect what the family wants, but it's really in the pursuit of justice and in their own public interest. And sometimes there's political reasons. They decide whether to go forward with the death penalty or not. Now, in this kind of case, there are a number of different considerations. And you also have to imagine the death penalty phase, if he's ultimately convicted, that's almost like a separate trial. So there's more expense, there's more time. You also have to consider the family members, what that's going to do for them to see this aspect and they having to testify during that. But if you had a death penalty case, this feels like the one in Idaho. I mean, the death penalty is on the books for this kind of case. It's a horrific quadruple homicide. It's incredibly high profile, young victims, savage nature of it. So I wouldn't be surprised if prosecutors decide to move forward with the ultimate punishment.
I do want to talk quickly about this modified gag order now. What kind of information do you expect we will now be able to hear going forward?
Not much. Basically, the attorneys in the case, like the prosecutors, the defense attorneys, the attorneys that are representing victims, they can talk a little bit about the case, but kind of bare bones, like the scheduling of the trial or what are the nature of the charges. They are allowed to make statements to correct the record if there's some sort of really bad misinformation coming out. But that's it. They can't talk about anything that's going to materially prejudice the case. They can't talk about the evidence. They can't talk about evidence that's not going to be in the case. They can't talk about a plea deal. So I don't really think at this point we're going to learn anything major from the attorneys, but it is for our news organizations a little bit of a win because they can speak a bit more than they were previously not allowed to.
Okay, I appreciate that. We're looking at this new court filing from Kohberger's attorney saying that there is no connection between his client and the 4 students who were murdered. How can he say that when he supposedly followed all 3 of the female victims on Instagram?
It's a little bit of a play on words. Do they mean to say that he had no connection? He was a complete stranger?
Exactly.
Because that may very well be the case.
Exactly.
But to say he had no connection at this point, I wonder if that's a bit disingenuous, particularly since it's my understanding we don't know the complete evidence from the prosecution.
Exactly.
For example, they found blood on different items in Kohberger's apartment or house.
Exactly.
And so we don't know who that tested positive for.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsstationnow.com.
Thank you for clearing that up, sir. I'm very glad he said that. I just said that previously. It depends on your interpretation of connection. Connection meaning what? He knew them, didn't know them. His DNA, blood, hair wasn't at the scene. Their blood, DNA, hair, dog hair wasn't at his office, home, blood on his pillowcase. You have to describe connection. And as I said to Brittany earlier, I don't have to know you to be in your DM. Anybody can send you a message, but that does not mean we know each other. And even if you respond, it still doesn't mean I know you. If I responded and said, yeah, hey, hello, what you doing? I don't know you. That still doesn't mean I know you. Because you got in my DM and said anything, whether I respond or not. So I think they're talking about evidentiary material. But as I just said, the state is not going to give them all that right now. I'm not going to tell you everything I got. But then you have to ask yourself how much evidence has come back. Then they're talking about the mishandling of the evidence. Who took what, passed it to this person, put it in a plastic sack, a plastic Ziploc, paper sack. Well, how could they contaminate it and say, well, yeah, we chose this person. We went in and planted evidence when they didn't even know who killed the kids. Stay woke now. Nobody knew what happened in that house except for the victims and the perpetrator. Law enforcement didn't know. FBI didn't know, state troopers didn't know, state police didn't know. So how are you going to plant something when you don't even know who the killer is? They had already gathered evidence from the house before he was even made a suspect. Followed across the country, still hadn't even had an arrest yet. So what do you? Just stop it. Just stop it. No connection. Elaborate. No DNA found at the house belonging to Kohberger, except for that sheath, but nothing else. Latent footprint. As I said, I won't doubt that the footprint is the same size as Mr. Kohberger's shoe. And when you watch this content by News Nation, I want you to look at this content very carefully. Watch Mr. Kohberger walk in, waddling, like a robot. Half-baked smile to Miss Taylor, sit down. Thought maybe he was mumbling something. Give her a quick glance, then back front, stand back up, sit back down. He's a damn robot. And he didn't like the fact that he had this woman representing him, a blonde too. Are you serious? And I don't even understand how she could even sit there beside him, talk to him, knowing he slaughtered those kids the way he did. But that is her job. No matter what he did. He's my client. Kaylee Maddie's family wants the death penalty. Xana's mother says no. Didn't hear anything about Ethan's parents. Well, I am not shocked that Xana's mother would oppose the death penalty due to the fact she has a criminal background. It's not to be nasty, but usually people who stay in trouble with the law, drugs, break the law, they would want the death penalty for another person doing wrong. And this is her child. But she thinks life in prison would serve him better. Well, he's going to be in jail a while, prison a while anyway, if indeed 12 members of the jury find him guilty. He'll be in prison for at least 10 years before he even gets the death penalty actually put down. And for his sake, he best to hope they got the injection ready and on file and ready so he doesn't get the firing squad. Imagine that. Loose and gag order. You hear this commentator saying probably not much is going to be revealed. Just court dates and times, but no major evidentiary information brought forward. How does Mr. Goncalves feel about that? Because he loves to talk. He likes to talk. So I'm sure he's wondering, when are we going to be able to continue talking about what happened to our daughter? That is our child. This is a strange, bizarre, scary story. Everything you could think of negative. Watching him walking in that courtroom, very creepy. He's trying to act like he's in control of his emotions, but we know he doesn't have control because that's what led him down this diabolical path to Moscow, Idaho, one fateful morning. He lost control. And he didn't regain control until after he killed the kids. He was able to breathe again. And that's when you hear that commentary from other people saying he was more lax in his behavior at some point. But that wasn't how he was behaving before. That's because he had gotten that buildup out of him. That animosity. The hatred. Oh, it's still there, of course. But he got some of it out of him when he killed those kids. And you wouldn't believe a person could have that type of emotion for strangers. But he did. Can't say, I loved him. I stabbed him to death. Because you see, when he was stabbing the 4 kids, he was stabbing Bryan C. Kohberger. Checkmate. Bryan was killing himself because he doesn't like himself. He doesn't like that vessel that he has become. So he had to act out. And sadly, these children became his victims. Let's talk about the death penalty. CBSnews.com is the source. Let me see if this content will play. Oh, I'm sure he's very upset. He's sitting beside that blonde-haired lady. I don't know how she can sit there. Prayers for the Midwest. There has been a tornado touchdown. Wait 1 second.
Human life. Defense attorneys claim there is no connection between Kohberger and the victims, and that DNA from 3 other males was found at the scene. Kohberger, a 28-year-old former PhD student, is expected to appear in court tomorrow.
Let me get the gist of that. I'm going to read you all this article. Prosecutors have decided to pursue the death penalty for Bryan Kohberger, the man accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students in November. Kohberger, 28, has been charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of burglary. He's accused of killing Ethan Chapin, a 20-year-old from Conway, Washington; Madison Mogan, 21, from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho; Xana Kernodle, 20, from Avondale, Arizona; and Kaylee Gonzalez, 21, from Radron, Idaho. The state gives this notice based on the fact that it has not identified or been provided with any mitigating circumstances sufficient to prohibit the triers of fact from considering all penalties authorized by the Idaho legislature, including the possibility of a capital sentence. Prosecutors wrote in a Monday court filing, consequently, considering all evidence currently known to the state is compelled to file this notice of intent to seek the death penalty. The Laptop County Prosecutor's Office said officials reserve the right to amend or withdraw the notice in the case. Kohberger was arrested on a fugitive from justice warrant at his parents' home in Pennsylvania December 30th. He was extradited to Idaho, where he was formally charged on January 5th. A judge entered a not guilty plea on his behalf at his May 22nd arraignment after Kohberger did not respond in court when the judge asked him how he pled. And that's the video you will see with News Nation that I just played, where he's very stoic. May 22nd hearing, where the judge enters a plea for Mr. Kohberger. At the time of the killings, Kohberger was a PhD criminology student and teaching assistant at Washington State University's Pullman campus, which is only about a 15-minute drive from the home in Moscow, Idaho, where the 4 students were killed. Authorities believe the victims were likely asleep when they came under attack, suffering multiple stab wounds from a large military-style knife. Court documents filed in the case allege Kohberger's DNA is near exact match to the DNA found on the knife sheath at the scene of the murders. Kaylee Gonzalez's mother, Christy Gonzalez, previously told 48 Hours she hopes that at the end of the trial, Kohberger will be put to death like an animal, like he is. CBS.News is the source. Very interesting. Go back and watch that News Nation clip and watch his demeanor. That was May 22nd, a month ago, where the judge enters a plea on behalf of Mr. Kohberger, which was a not guilty plea. You see, if you're innocent, you would have no problem saying guilty or not guilty. So all this stuff that Ms. Taylor is putting on about grand jury hearings, grand jury selections, evidence that the state is hiding, blah, blah, blah. Why don't you stick to the logistics, ma'am? The logistics are as follows. Your client didn't put in his own damn plea, but allegedly he's innocent. Why not? Seen on surveillance in the girl's DM, GPS mapping out his timeline after and before coming to the property. You don't know who has seen him over there that morning, returning back to the property that morning. Once again, seen on CCTV, leaving the scene in that white Hyundai. Most definitely. Death by baseball bat. Mm-hmm. So you don't even know what the state has, Miss Taylor. And all this mumbo jumbo about DNA on a glove outside and one DNA inside. If that's all you're complaining about, you're basically telling on yourself. If these kids had a lot of company, people coming and going, then there should be all kind of DNA in the house belonging to men, males. How about that? And as I said, the glove outside may not have any jurisdiction on the case. I don't know if it belongs to Kohberger or not. But if it's been tested, it obviously doesn't belong to him. Or I'm assuming by now they would have said so. I don't know. Yes, you're grasping at straws because that is your job, to try to put reasonable doubt in the minds of the people who will be making a decision about your client. But you know, logically, you can't explain. A man who never knew these kids, they didn't know him. They weren't friends with him. They don't have friends of friends that are friends with him. What the hell was he doing at this house, 15 minutes away from Pullman, Washington, and a sheath that holds a knife lying underneath a dead girl? I don't really think we have to continue to explain that. Now, do we? I don't think so. Jacked up. I'm going to get to my second story. Most of you heard about a crime that took place in Florida. Caucasian woman had some issues with an African-American woman and her children. Sadly, this black woman was shot through the door of this white woman's home. Let her tell it. She feared for her safety, thought the lady was going to kill her. We're going to start at the beginning of this story and work our way to the latest. The latest is that she won't be facing a murder charge. So let's go back to how the story began and who's telling the truth of her relationship with these children and this woman. This was uploaded June 9th. Florida woman who fatally shot a black neighbor admitted hurling racial slurs at victims' children in the past, affidavit says. A Florida woman who fatally shot a black neighbor during a dispute over kids playing outside admitted hurling racial slurs at the children and told detectives the victim threatened to kill her, according to an arrest affidavit. The affidavit was released before bond for Susan Louise Lorincz was set at $154,000 on Friday. Lorincz, a 58-year-old white woman, was arrested on a charge of manslaughter Tuesday, 4 days after investigators say she fatally shot A.J. Owens through the front door of Lorincz. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name correct. Lorincz home near Ocala, Florida. As Owens repeatedly knocked on her door, the Marion County Sheriff's Office said. The arrest affidavit released from the Sheriff's Office said Lorincz became angry that neighborhood children, including the children of the victim, were playing near her home. The affidavit detailed interviews with witnesses whose names are redacted. 2 witnesses are believed to be some of the victim's children. One of the Owens' sons told a deputy he'd been playing basketball in the street while his younger 10-year-old brother played in the nearby field, according to the affidavit. The child told the deputy his young brother informed him that he had left an electronic tablet in the field and said Lorincz had picked it up. When the 10-year-old asked Lorincz to return the tablet, he told the deputy the woman threw it on the ground and yelled at him. The child claimed Lorincz threw roller skates at him, according to the affidavit. The affidavit says the older child said he told his younger sibling to tell their mother what was going on, and then he approached Lorinc's front door and yelled, "You want to throw something? Throw it at me." Lorincz came out of her home and told him he was trespassing and swung an umbrella in his direction, the affidavit said. Shortly after, the victim approached Lorinc's front door and banged on the door, yelling for Lorincz to throw something at her if she wanted to throw something, the affidavit said. The older child then heard a loud bang and witnessed his mother stumbling away from the door while telling him to call 911, according to information obtained by a deputy, which is laid out in the affidavit. The defendant painted a different picture of events in her interview with a sheriff's deputy, according to the affidavit. Lorincz told the deputy she'd been having problems with the same juveniles for the past years due to their lack of respect for her peace and privacy, the affidavit stated. Lorincz also told the deputy that Owen's children had told her they would kill her in the past, according to the affidavit. Lorincz denied picking up a tablet or throwing roller skates at anyone in her interview with the deputy, the affidavit states, but she acknowledged throwing roller skates in the yard and telling the children to go fetch them. She also admitted that it was possible she had swung an umbrella near one of the children but wouldn't have hit them, according to the court document. On the night of the shooting, Lorincz told the deputy that after she told all the children to leave, Owen suddenly appeared at her door and started banging on it while yelling, "I'm going to effing kill you." Owens was banging on her door with so much force. Lorincz told the deputy that she panicked, stating, "Oh my God, she's really going to kill me this time," according to the affidavit. Then Lorincz said she retrieved her handgun and fired a single shot through the door, telling the deputy she was afraid for her life, the affidavit stated. The defendant also told the deputy she never intended to hit the victim when she fired the gun and thought she hit really high when she shot. Neighbors interviewed by sheriff's deputies revealed a history of negative interactions between Lorincz and the children in the neighborhood, with one saying the white one was always yelling at the children who play in the area and calls in false reports on them, according to the affidavit. Very interesting. This is coming from the neighbors, always yelling at the children and calling in false reports on them. The court document quotes Owen's younger child as saying Lorincz called him and other children bastards, jackasses, and at one time stated, "This isn't the Underground Railroad, slave." A neighbor told deputies that the night of the shooting, Lorincz came out of her home and gave the children playing in the field the middle finger and yelled, "Get away from my house, you black slave," the affidavit said. In a second interview with the law enforcement, the affidavit said the defendant acknowledged using racial slurs toward children in the past. Lorincz admitted to having used the N-word toward children out of anger in the past and also calling children other derogatory terms, the detective noted in the affidavit. When reached by CNN, Lorincz attorney Amanda Sizemore said she has no comment on the case at the time. A judge set her bond at $150,000 for the felony charge, another $4,000 for 4 misdemeanor counts for Susan Louise Lorincz, who earlier told the court she could only afford a bond of $1,700. She also said she's unemployed and owns about $3,000 worth of furniture. The state requested a $200,000 bond. The owner of the apartment where Lorincz lives told detectives she was being evicted, according to a prosecutor, and the judge recommended Lorincz not to return there. In addition to manslaughter with a firearm, Lorincz is facing charges of culpable negligence, battery, and 2 counts of assault, the sheriff's office said Wednesday. If Lorincz posts bond, she would not be allowed to possess a firearm or any other weapon, nor is she allowed to have any contact with the victim's family. If she returns to her apartment to gather belongings, she would have to have someone accompany her. She's allowed to live in her apartment as long as she isn't evicted. Lorincz will also have to wear an ankle monitor. Lorincz made an initial court appearance via video call on Thursday. She told the court she has no savings, is making payments on a car, and had filed for disability after working at United Healthcare. She said she last worked 2 weeks ago and that she supports her 55-year-old sister. In the days since killing, Owen's family had repeatedly called for the arrest and charging of the shooter, insisting the incident was unprovoked and unjustified. Though the arrest has brought Owen's family some relief, one of her sons is grappling with remorse because he was the one who told his mother about Lorintz's confrontation with the children. The family said he witnessed his mother shot and killed. In his soul, in his heart, it's his fault that his older brother, his baby sister, and his baby brother, as well as himself, will never see their mother again. Pamela Diaz, Owen's mother, said of the young boy. Another child also blamed himself because he was unable to perform CPR on his mother, Diaz said. Grandma, I couldn't save her, Diaz recalled the 12-year-old boy telling her. Funeral service will be held for Owens on Monday, Crump said. This content is from 2 weeks ago. CNN is the source. Dated Friday, June 9th. Here's Miss Brittany. Sorry about that. I'm going to read the next article and then I'm going to give you my commentary pertaining to this information. Okay. News break is my second source for Miss Lorincz. This is updated information pertaining to the murder charge. Content uploaded 8 hours ago. A Florida state attorney declined to pursue murder charges against a white woman accused of fatally shooting her black neighbor through a door, he announced Monday. Susan Lorincz has been charged with manslaughter with a firearm and assault in the June 2nd shooting death of Ajiki Owens. State Attorney William Glasson said his office determined there was insufficient evidence to file a murder charge against Lorincz. Charging Lorincz with murder would require prosecutors to provide evidence of hatred, spite, ill will, or evil intent toward the victim at the time of the killing. As deplorable as the defendant's actions were in this case, there is insufficient evidence to prove this specific and required element of second-degree murder, Glasson said. As is always true in criminal cases, failure to prove beyond a reasonable doubt even one element of a crime will result in a not guilty verdict. Given the facts in this case, aiming a firearm at the door and pulling the trigger is legally insufficient to prove depraved mind. Marion County Sheriff's Office had also charged Lorincz with culpable negligence and battery, but Glasson's office is not pursuing those charges based on testimony from witnesses in the case. Very curious. What did they say for them not to even do the culpable negligence and battery? Glasson said he would not be pushed to file charges based on community pressure or public sentiment. Simply stated, my obligation is to follow the law. Understandably, emotions run high, particularly with senseless, violent crimes. However, I cannot allow any decision to be influenced by public sentiment, angry phone calls, or further threats of violence, as I have received in this case, he said. To allow that to happen would be improper and a violation of my oath as a prosecutor and as a lawyer. Lorincz faces up to 30 years in prison if convicted. Many in the community quickly called for the suspect's arrest after the shooting. Officers waited several days before arresting Lorincz as they worked to determine what role in the state's stand your ground laws might play in the shooting. Under Florida's stand your ground law, enacted in 2005, people can use deadly force if they feel their lives are in danger. Sheriff Billy Wood said the shooting was the culmination of a 2.5-year feud between neighbors. Lorincz had been angry with over Owens' children playing in a field close to her apartment. The alleged shooter told detectives that she called the victim's children racist slurs in the months leading up to the slaying, admitting that she used the N-word. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who is one of the lawyers representing the Owens family, had called on the state attorney's office to zealously prosecute the shooter. This is not a difficult case, Crump previously said. Okay. Stand your ground. Tennessee is a stand your ground state as well. Florida is a stand your ground state. And I do believe a lot of people get away with heinous crimes in Florida with this stand your ground law, as we've heard and seen pertaining to Trayvon Martin. Why not? Why is she not facing charges? He says he's not going to be, bombarded and doing the charges, bringing up the charges against her because of what other people are thinking and saying. He has insufficient evidence that this was ill will and hatred. Well, you're calling little children niggers and jackasses. Okay, you don't like the children, but why are you calling them names? Were they ever disturbing her? Let's go there. Bothering her, banging on her door, bothering her car. What? Just what? Her apartment door, room, windows are adjacent to the field. She could hear them playing. She said she didn't throw out roller skates and a tablet at them, but then admits that, oh yeah, I threw it and told them to fetch it. Well, to them, that's throwing it at him. And why are you over there picking up the tablet? See, that makes no sense because you're being messy. You're an older woman, middle-aged woman with nothing better to do, probably sitting at home all damn day, been sitting at home the past couple of weeks when all this mess jumped off, and you probably weren't even used to sitting around listening to the noise. So if you worked every day, when were you hearing the noise? In the evenings? Did the kids stay out late at night? What are the allegations? Did you ever try to go talk to the mother? Ma'am, I need to talk to you about your children. Did you call the police and say, hey, I'm trying to sleep, I'm trying to read? What was the interaction between all of them? Children, mother, police. And what did the neighbors say for the state to now say, well, we got insufficient evidence? A neighbor just said they saw her yelling at the children often. This was an escalation. Something was going to jump off regardless. That's what I thought earlier when I read the article. 2 years, 2.5. It's a wonder she didn't shoot sooner. And the fact that she says, oh, I shot higher, that makes no damn sense. So what are you trying to say? The mother was what, 5'2", 5 feet? You shot up toward the door to try to get her attention? Well, you got her attention, all right. She's dead now. Now the children got to live with seeing their mom murdered in front of them. That's a hell of a burden to carry around. Now they're guilty that they didn't do CPR. They're also guilty that they wouldn't even said anything to your crazy ass. Now, I understand children can be rambunctious and they can be smart mouths. So I'm not there to say what they said, you said, but you calling them niggers and different names, that shows me right there you're unhinged. Because you don't have any business cursing at no kids. What you should have been doing was trying to go talk to the mother to say, hey, your kids are, messing up the flower beds or whatever the hell you think they were doing. Why didn't you go find their mother? And were you also making false calls to the police department, which is a crime as well? So yeah, I'm like Mr. Ben Crump. You are getting off easy. So I'm trying to understand how they don't feel like it's ill will when you have already admitted, oh, this has been going on for 2+ years. 2 years is a long time to be bickering with children. Oh, you thought she was going to what? Snatch the door open, break in because she was banging on the door? What was she also grabbing the door handle? Oh, she's trying to come in my house. But you didn't think to call 911. You just said, hell, I'll let the gun solve the problem. So was the woman trying to open the door and come in your house? That's what I like to know. And how was she going to get in there if the door was locked? So what are we talking? A regular door or screen door? But your behavior to me is off. Because most people would have gotten fed up, especially if they're not a homeowner. Hell, let me go find me somewhere else better to live. Let me go find me a better apartment, condo. That's what I find strange. You not moving. And I don't believe in people running from their problems, but sometimes you do have to just buck up and get on. So these kids were menaces in your eye. You feel like you got to call them slaves, which is the stupidest thing I ever heard too. Who calls black people slaves? See, you are biased because of the terminology you're using for children. And I don't believe those kids would make that up. They ain't making that up. You said those things. Jackass. Bastards. You said those things. You should have bucked up and moved your ass out of there. Okay, this neighborhood isn't for me. I don't see anything changing. Let me go find me somewhere decent to live where I can get some peace of mind. Maybe you should have moved in a place that's catered to middle-aged people only. That's why a lot of people live in places where there aren't any children. It's not that they don't like kids, but they know the ramifications of having children around them in an apartment complex. Housing development. There's going to be some issues. And then you have conflicting statements. They admit that in this article. So this is why I don't understand the state not filing the charge. You said one thing here, then you said something different in your statement. Then the neighbors are telling a different version that you was yelling and hollering at the kids all the time. But yet the state says, I don't have evidence that this is ill will. Racism. I'm going to read Ben Crump and then I'll let Miss Brittany speak. TMZ is the source.
It was not a long standing feud or dispute. This was this 58-year-old white woman who constantly antagonized the children living in an apartment complex for playing in a field that was a field that nobody owned. She would come and she would use racial epithets, calling them the N-word, telling them this is not the Underground Railroad, you slaves. I mean, it's deplorable things. And on this day, she did that, and the children left when she came and berated them. And her 9-year-old grandson left his iPad. She took the iPad when her 12-year-old son with his 9-year-old brother went to get the iPad back. She threw a skate at them, and she threw the iPad and cracked the iPad. And so then they went and told their mother. Their mother came over, knocked on the door 4 to 5 times, said, I know you hear me, and pow, shot through a locked metal door.
Make no mistake, it was no dispute. It was this woman terrorizing the children in the neighborhood, terrorizing, bullying the kids, being kids, playing in an area that she had no rights to. They did nothing wrong.
When you fire a gun into a door knowing someone is on the other side of it, that sounds premeditated to me. And I'm curious about this, what your feeling is about the charge of manslaughter and not murder.
It absolutely is murder. And it's shocking and appalling that it hasn't been charged as so. Wholeheartedly, I believe that the roles were reversed, it would be murder. No doubt. It's devastating.
Yeah. So, and the state attorney now has the ability, based on the evidence, to increase the charges, Charles and Brad, if he so chooses. That's what we call prosecutorial discretion. It happens all the time with people in our community, where the police charge one thing and they up the charges.
The family has been destroyed. 3-year-old, 9-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 12-year-old. Lost their mother forever. 2 witnessed the murder of their mother. Tragedy doesn't begin to describe. Their lives will never, never be the same. They will forever be affected by this.
TMZ is the source. The white woman who shot and killed a black neighbor, mother of 4, is getting off easy when it comes to charges, so says attorney Ben Crump and the victim's mother, who both say race is very much a factor. Crump and Pamela Diaz joined us Wednesday on TMZ Live to reveal everything that led up to Friday's tragedy. Police said 58-year-old Susan Louise Lorincz opened fire through her front door, killing 35-year-old Miss Owens, who was knocking on the door to defend her kids. Lorincz was arrested Tuesday night, charged with 2 counts of assault, battery, culpable negligence, and manslaughter. That last charge is offensive to Pamela, as she firmly believes her daughter was murdered. Crump pointed out prosecutors still have the discretion to upgrade the charges against Lorincz, and he says that's warranted in this case, which I was curious about. Pamela and Ben claim Lorincz has been tormenting neighborhood kids, including Ajaki's kids, for years about an open field where they play. They say her anger was completely unwarranted, as Lorincz didn't own the land, which is adjacent to her apartment. Perhaps most tragically, Pamela says 2 of her grandkids witnessed their mother get shot. Crump says he has no doubt racism is a critical factor in this case. He claims Lorincz has hurled epithets at the children and insults on previous occasions. Right now, Pamela says she's focused on trying to give her 4 grandchildren as much normalcy as possible, but also realizes her family will never be the same again after the brutal slaying of her daughter. So it's an issue of the type of charge. When I was reading the other one, article, it sounded like there was no charge. Maybe I'm confused. Now, that was 14 days ago. So that's older information. Oh, no, not 14 days ago. I'm looking at something else that jumped out.
So she'd be in charge with manslaughter now instead of second degree.
So that was 19 days ago, the manslaughter. That's then. That's 2 weeks ago. This new information I brought is saying there's no charge.
That's what I thought.
That's what she was charged with then, 2 weeks ago. But the new information says no murder charge. And not even the culpable charges either. So it sounds like nothing to me.
But then again, it says she's going to be on an ankle monitor.
Well, I didn't see that.
You read it.
Did I?
Yeah.
Well, I mean.
It was in the first article.
Okay. I started.
No, it's strange.
I said, I was so winded.
Yeah, the lady admits to having an issue, you know? I mean, I guess maybe the issue is that her ill intent was towards the children and not towards the lady she shot.
But the point of you using racial slurs to me shows the ill intent because you're not doing it.
Right. No, I agree.
You didn't slip up one time and say, "Hey, nigger." You kept on calling them slaves, this and that. Other people hearing you yell at them all the time. You're mad because that field is there, obviously. You're mad that they're coming to enjoy the field. And I get it. There's probably times she wanted to hear her TV show or rest or sleep, and they're yelling, hollering, screaming. But that's the whole point, is that so long as you're living in an apartment, this is what you have to put up with. Trust me, Queen knows all about it. Whenever you live around kids, you're going to get the brunt of children's junk. It's just the way it is. That's why I said, when you realize children were coming over there to play, if you couldn't get a hold of whoever owned the land, the property, to find out who owned it, to keep the kids off of the property, your best bet was to find you somewhere else to go. If it was bothering you that much to where you felt like you had to get a gun, instead of calling the police and say, "Hey, there's a lady out here banging. I don't know what she's going to do, but I can't see the woman kicking down a steel door. She had to be one mean son of a gun."
Right. And why was she touching the kid's property? You know, like, I don't know.
That shows you're messy. That's why I said she was messy.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing now in the field? You're so perturbed, but you're in the field. You're coming out hollering and screaming. So you're exacerbating the situation.
She sounds like a miserable old lady.
And I don't know if at one point, maybe before they came or how long they lived in the neighborhood, maybe it was quiet. Nobody was playing over there in the field. Then here comes these children disturbing, her peace of mind, because she's obviously, maybe her door window shares this open field and the noise is irritating to her.
Yeah, from what I've seen, it looked like her back patio opened up into this big field.
That's what I was trying to see, what it looked like. So that's why I say she should have found the owner of the field and talked to that person to say, my back patio faces this. This is my time to, read and chill. I really don't want to hear kids running back and forth, blah, blah, blah. And it would have been up to that person to come through and talk to the children and say, "I need to talk to your mother," and then go to them and say, "Hey, this is private property. I would prefer that your children not be, running around over here." End of that. But obviously they didn't.
That's horrible. And then to think the children saw their mom die, that's horrible.
And now this lady has to take care of 4 kids.
And maybe it's something to do with the stand your ground state laws. I don't know, but that still doesn't make sense. But
that's why the people take advantage of doing it. If I know I can shoot you and just from off of my tongue say you was doing this, that's why they abuse it. Because down there, obviously you don't even have to show much evidence that somebody was doing something from the looks of it.
She may or may not have swung an umbrella at them. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. But see, she's been taking back everything she has said. I did swing the umbrella. I did throw the skate out there. I did throw this out there. But, I wasn't trying to throw it at them. But if you fetched it, it's all the same.
Yeah, why bother with it?
Because she wanted to be messy.
And it does seem like definitely a racial issue. Who tells kids this is not the Underground Railroad? They probably didn't even know what that meant. You know?
Yeah, and she's sitting up here under 60 talking like that. That's even more bothersome to me. She wasn't even born with the Underground Railroad. What the hell is she talking about?
And who calls anybody those names? But, kids outside playing, I mean,
I cannot pull this.
I don't know. That's crazy. Crazy. Especially if she's not getting the manslaughter charge, is what it sounds like. That's absolutely ridiculous.
She probably won't.
Yeah, it's probably a great thing she's getting evicted as well.
Now imagine had they kept her.
Imagine. There might have been another body.
I cannot pull this. Oh, my phone's acting up. Oh.
I know my internet was messing up when I was trying to listen.
For some reason, I can't type the words. It won't type F for some reason. This is weird.
Telling you need to leave the F word out of your vocabulary.
Oh my God.
Hey, Happy Hippie. Yeah, it does sound like she's an angry psycho. I mean, who would even bother with some kids? I mean, yeah, I know that kids can be aggravating. Trust me, I have one. But, I mean,
Okay, here it is right here.
Sometimes that's like the best sound to have kids, playing and having fun and things like that. Who wants kids to be cooped up in a house all the time? I don't know. That's really sad, though. And it's really unfortunate for the kids and to think that they have to live with what they saw.
Susan Louise Lorincz, 58, was instead charged with 1 count of manslaughter with the firearm and 1 count of assault, said Bill Gladson, the state attorney at the 5th Judicial Court. She could face a maximum sentence of 30 years in prison if convicted on the charges. And then it just goes on to talk about the lady and her kids.
And it's probably her first offense.
There is not enough evidence to prove the crime. I'm aware of the desire of the family and some community members that the defendant be charged with second-degree murder. I just want to make sure I'm clear on everything. He said in the statement. However, I cannot allow any decision to be influenced because of angry sentiment, phone calls, blah, 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 stuff I've already read. So that's the issue. The intent is what determines the type of murder, from first degree all the way down to manslaughter. First degree means you intentionally went and killed someone.
Well, manslaughter typically means it was an accident.
I ran you over, right? An accident, didn't see you in the road, blase, blase.
Well, I feel like, saying it's an accident's a little far-fetched.
Well, I think manslaughter is a little more broad as far as murder.
Yeah, I guess so. And, she'll probably get no jail time, to be honest.
But basically what they're saying is, I can't prove she deliberately wanted her dead and showed ill will to kill the lady. That's basically what they're saying.
And I feel like that's contradicting to say, because later on in the statement you were reading, it says, she admitted to calling them racial slurs and,
so I don't say that way. I can't prove hate. I can't prove racism. Then why are you using racial slurs?
And I guess maybe they're saying to the actual victim they cannot prove, the hate or the evil intent because all the evil intent seems to be of the children. But
right. But one thing that's another. That's why they went and got their mother, because they're children.
Right.
It's not for them to fight the battle of an adult. She was putting them in an adult's place by yelling and hollering and screaming. That's why they went and got their mother. It's fucked up.
Yeah, it's bad.
My advice to anyone living in apartments, if you have a problem with noise, traffic, children, apartment living is possibly not for you unless you're living in a development for older people. When she was almost 60, that was her best bet, was to find a retirement place to go live. But she didn't have any money. She's getting ready to file for disability. So I guess she was doing the best she could where she was. Now she don't got shit. Housing market is bad. So she probably got to rely on the state for some type of, as I said, a place that goes by your income, or get a voucher, housing voucher. And then now, who's going to give her a housing voucher knowing she shot this neighbor? probably go. She'd have to go somewhere far away where her name won't come up in the database. And sometimes your name still comes up, even if you they run your name.
Right, especially with the situation being so fresh. Her trying to relocate.
So let's just say she did try to apply for housing somewhere. Do you think she should get it? Public aid, anything, voucher, government?
I don't really know the stipulations on what, like the qualifications are.
Usually murder, it's a no. That and drugs. Any type of recent drug charge, arrest, murder, assault, anything dealing with sexual sadism is a no.
I mean, yeah, I feel like anybody taking her on as a tenant is putting their self at risk and all of their community.
She's already shown you what she'll do if she has an altercation with you. And what's weird is Mr. Crump says, no, this wasn't an escalation, but you have witnesses saying, yeah, there were problems with her and the kids. So when you got more than one incident, that is a problem.
Right. And she admittedly said it had been going on for 2 years. I mean, that's an escalated incident, in my opinion.
But I'm trying to understand why Mr. Crump is saying it's not.
I don't know. That's really unfortunate.
Well, all I can say is the state she's in, they way favored for that. And I can tell you, her being a black woman and her having kid issues, even if the woman didn't say stuff to her often, the kids had an issue with her. She had an issue with the kids. They may not even find her guilty because of that stand your ground bullshit. It's just an excuse to just shoot people. You know, it's no different than, police brutality. Well, I did it because I could. I told you to stop. You didn't stop, so I shot you in the back.
Right. And I mean, it can't even be like a trespassing issue because even, with trespassing, you have to tell the person to, you can give them a verbal warning to not come back. But, just that lady just knocking on her door she's not committing a crime. I mean, you wouldn't think they'd give a right to just shoot her.
All she should do is just tell her, get away from my door, ma'am. I have a gun, ma'am. I'm going to call the police, ma'am. Did she do any of those things? Obviously not. She just decided, well, I'll shoot out. As they say in the street, we'll talk later. Ask questions later.
And you would think there would be some sort of charge as far as some child endangerment charges. The fact that she shot out with children around.
Or anybody coming outside standing with the mother.
Well, the kids were.
And just imagine the children were right there at the door. I don't know how far back they were standing or if they were close there. So that's very true. That's a very good point. Why not child endangerment? If indeed there were children standing near the mother.
It's horrible. That's really sad. Very sad.
So what do you think is going to happen?
I think she'll definitely be proven guilty for the manslaughter, but I don't agree with that being the only charge.
And she was licensed to carry?
I don't think she needs a gun by any means. I don't think she ever did. Clearly, if you can't handle some kids playing outside.
No, I said, was she licensed to carry?
I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd like to know how far the children were. Because they watched, so that means they were nearby.
Yeah, or even if they were in that open field.
So let's go there. How far were the children standing from the mother to the door? How many times did she shoot through the door?
It only showed one hole in the door.
What type of gun was it, I wonder?
I don't know.
One time shoot through a metal door and she died is pretty
Yep.
It makes you wonder if it was a big gun.
It's just crazy to think that, someone came to your door and you automatically shoot. I mean, don't get me wrong, the lady was probably angry. This lady
Yeah, she
has,
probably was banging. I'm not going to say that she wasn't. She probably was
yeah,
banging on the door.
and maybe that wasn't the right thing to do either, but I don't agree with shooting her. I don't know what I think the right thing to do was.
Well, you
Yeah, I
see now,
probably.
the way people react, this is what I told a guy today at the grocery store when he's talking about seeing like with children running and sticking their hands in food and stuff. I said, you have to be careful saying something to the child. You have to be careful saying something to the parent, because he said the child said something back to him like, you're not my daddy. And he was like, yeah, I know I ain't your daddy, but you ain't about to keep doing what you're doing up in the store. So finally he said, the store manager, somebody came, asked, was this his child? He said no. And he was like, if it was my child, they would have got their hide beat. I said, well, first of all, more than likely, your child would have known not to be sticking their hand in food. But this is a new generation of people raising kids. That's why the children act the way they act, because they are being raised by children themselves. And I'm not saying every young person has a child, they're not raising their child properly. But when you look at how people act on social media, the way they talk, we're so accepting of really bad behavior, gross behavior, vulgar tongue, mouth. This is why the children act the way they act.
Right, and that's the thing about this case, though. You don't really hear anything other than the kids playing. It's not that, they were out there playing and their ball, maybe their ball rolled to her door too many times. You don't hear anything like that. It's just that she didn't like them out there.
In the field, yeah, because more than likely, at one point, they probably weren't even coming over there, but then they started and that blew her high. And I get that. You're used to something a certain way. I totally understand. That's anybody. You get used to something a certain way, you want to keep it that way. But that's the thing about living around certain type of people, children. Things change. This is why, as we always say, people become homeowners, because they don't want to deal with that. Living door to door. You understand what I'm saying? People coming in and out, honking horns, blaring music. And unfortunately, she had a plot of land with nothing on it. So that probably was gravy for her until these kids came along. The kids needed somewhere to go, and instead of them going to the park, a neighborhood park, they just took advantage of an open field.
Right, because I'm sure, in that type of setting, as far as an apartment or townhouses, they kind of look like little townhouses all together, like one level. They probably didn't have like a big area to play.
Too close together.
But that's probably, the one area they had that they could all really play and things like that. I don't know. It's just, I'd hate to think that. I mean, I don't know. It's strange. And I don't really think, regardless of how the lady was knocking on her door, that that's a right to kill someone.
Well, but people are doing it now. We've heard of incidents lately of people shooting outdoors. The older white man shooting the little boy. He went to the wrong house to pick up his brother. This is the answer now. Shoot now, ask questions later.
I mean, if she opened the door and came inside her home, we'd be talking about something different, in my opinion.
She's in that house, that's on her once she's in there.
Right. And because, just out of someone pure startling someone, I can't tell you that I wouldn't do the same in my house. You come in my house, that is what it is. But, to be outside the door.
Once you're inside, I don't have to ask you anything.
No. I don't know. That's really sad. And it's sad to think that, the child, feels.
This is why people are going to be getting away with these type of crimes, because these southern states have this law.
Oh, God.
Georgia also has it. You learned that with the Arbery case. Ahmaud Arbery case. Same.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's doing something, this and that. So now we got to chase him, block him in. You should have left him alone. He wasn't bothering you.
Yeah, she sounds like she needs to be in a retirement community, mental facility, something.
Yeah. Be around people her own age.
But, at the same time, I have a hard time believing that, if a child outside playing can aggravate you that much, that you're not going to have a problem with an adult as well.
Well, and I was going to say that too. She probably would go somewhere and be easily annoyed. And some people are just easily annoyed by noise,
Now, noise will annoy me. I mean, not necessarily a kid playing, but like a certain noise, I can't explain it. But, not to the point where I want to kill someone. That's just crazy. It's just crazy.
And I think that's what happened. What was once peaceful to her, sitting out there on that porch, probably, doing her thing. she felt violated because now I can't sit and concentrate, read a book because now I've got kids hollering, screaming, and you're not used to that. It's just like what I said. It's what you get used to. It's no different if it's you on the bottom level, somebody live on the top, vice versa. However it go. Once you start hearing the noise, it's like, oh, there goes the neighborhood. Because now I have to ask myself, was it more than just those two children playing?
Yes, from what I understand, the one interview I've seen with the neighbor, there were many kids. I mean, like it sounds like up into like maybe, maybe 7 to 10. I don't know.
Yeah,
but the dad,
if they're not being watched and it's dark, 30.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The dad, the man that was doing the interview, he said he was always, because he said that he was like the one dad that was always out there with them playing. So it didn't sound like it was an unsupervised thing. It didn't sound like, they were out there late at night or anything like that. I mean, that the one guy that spoke, he seemed like he kind of,
my thing is an open field. Why not just go to a park where it's public and you can run around, go on hikes and go, waterfalls or something that would be more entertaining than just an open field, because we already know what's in open fields. And to that swampland, you're talking about rodents, this and that. I wouldn't be in an open field playing.
Well, from what I've seen, when they said open field, it was the mowed, not like a field with grass. It was mowed down. It looked, it was just a big,
manicured.
Yeah. So it looked like they could play, I don't know, kickball out there, whatever. And I think the one guy that I saw speak, he was just saying, there isn't a lot of stuff to do out here with them. So I usually come out here and we'll all play ball.
But that's going to be a problem if some people's porches and back patios are facing the field. That's not going to work. You trying to hit a baseball or kickball.
Well, the thing is from what I've seen, it was, I want to say a good distance, but it's not far, but it's far enough, in my opinion, for it not to bother her. I will admit that. Yeah, I'll see if I can find it and send it to you. I will admit that she probably heard them.
Yeah.
But other than that,
that is probably what it was.
Like I said, but I never heard, because he gave quite a few scenarios of things that she would come out there and do, just kind of like that one interview you were reading. But I never heard a scenario like, oh, we accidentally hit the ball near her house, or, a ball rolled into her patio. Nothing like that. It was just the pure sound of the children out there.
It probably was. It just, like I said, is what she got used to, not hearing anything, to now I'm hearing this often.
I don't know. It's crazy.
Well, that's the point of life, is everybody's tolerant level isn't the same. Some people can breeze through noise. They can work through noise. Others cannot. I mean, you understand? That's just the way it is.
Well, she needs to turn her TV up or something. I don't know. But, they say 2 years. If you're that unhappy.
That's why I just said I'm surprised she stayed as long as she did. And I do think that's unfair, because I've lived this situation already. It's unfair that a person moves somewhere and now they've got to go because of noise or whatever the hell the problem is.
Well, and them saying that she had called the cops a few times and things like that. There's nothing they're going to do. And that's probably exactly what they told her. It's not a quiet hour. You can't say these kids can't be out here.
Mm-hmm. And then it'd have to be the property owner say, I don't want these kids on my property.
And I really can't imagine that, if it just being that open field area, that, these kids don't have anywhere else to play. I don't know that if anybody came to me with that, I would say, no, they can't play on my property. I wouldn't care.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, they're kids.
Well, it just, once again, it goes back to what I said. It'll be up to the person. If they're in cahoots with the people that own that property, and maybe they build a rapport with the people that live there that said, hey, it's not to be personal, but we enjoy this solitude of just facing the empty field and not hearing anything. It would be up to the owner.
I don't know. I just think she's an evil old lady.
Because there's places I see out here, where people do flea markets and this, that, and the other, and they don't want you there walking through, sitting around unless you ain't got no business. It's just the way it is. People are funny about their property.
And you're right, their property.
It's not a city. It's not a city.
Right, but I look at that more like when it truly is your property. I think that, when you're living in a townhouse apartment or whatever, it's really, it's kind of, what is your property? Because they weren't on her property. They weren't. I don't know. I don't agree with it at all. I think she's crazy. I definitely feel like it should have been something more than a manslaughter because I do feel like there was ill intent.
Let's go here. What if, next door to you, it's not going to be the same. Somebody's running, kids running all day long next to your property, balls running on the yard. You wouldn't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I would. That's why I don't have no neighbors. Now, I'm going to say I would, but I mean, I could, even with me not having like any neighbors, I can occasionally be outside and hear a kid like make a note, like, they're outside like screaming and playing or something. No, that doesn't bother me. I mean, I can't hear it from inside my house.
It's not right at your front door either, Brittany. You understand what I'm saying?
I mean, I'm not going to say that it probably wouldn't get annoying from time to time, but the extreme to actually go out. Because here's the thing, you're going out and you're calling these kids names. Did you actually ever go, level-headed to a parent and say,
no, that's what I said.
Hey, these kids are a little loud. I'm working. Maybe she works from home. That's possible. They say she works for United Healthcare. It's very possible she worked from home. So... No, I mean, if you have an issue, I think there's a way to address it, but I don't think that she addressed anything positively.
Ms. Moore says the owner of the property said the boys were playing in a common area. What does that mean exactly?
I'll have to show you the video that I seen the field. I mean, it didn't look, I mean, I didn't see an issue with it, but whatever. But and I also believe if you feel that strongly about, the noises and things, to the extent that she did, you need to move. You need to buy you a piece of property.
I don't want to move.
Well, then you need to deal with your surroundings because, when you're living in a situation like that, you never know who's going to move in next door to you.
And that's the whole point I make about living in apartments. Also, there can be same issues with a house. You don't know how things are going to jump off, and that's just the way it is. That's why many people who have money, they can afford to duck themselves off and not have an immediate neighbor right sitting on top of them.
But I just, I never heard a claim that she actually came to a parent to have like, a level-headed conversation.
In general, so she ain't getting ready to go talk to no black woman about her kids. She did just what she been doing, yelling at the children. Because somebody would have got tired of that at some point and said, okay, they're bothering me. Well, let me go find their mother. Do you know who their mother is? Go talk to her neighbor. Do you know their mom? And go from there.
Yeah, no, I think she's crazy and she's miserable. And, one of those things, miserable, want to make everyone else miserable around them.
She's probably going to, try her best to move on. Don't know how well that's going to work out for her.
No, because not only have you murdered a lady, you are labeled as a racist, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. But the thing about it is that what people don't understand about people who have the type of attitude, they really don't care. See, what we think they should be going through and how their life is going to end up being, you just never know how it's going to turn out because you actually have people who favor this type of behavior and would actually help her set up GoFundMe pages, give her money, make sure she gets a new house, new apartment. It happens every day.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Sad when there's 4 kids moving on without a mother.
Yeah, she probably doesn't have any remorse. That's a question somebody should ask her. Well,
yeah.
Man, do you have any remorse for killing this lady?
Very sad. Very sad.
And somebody said the grassy area beside her house was the only grassy area available for the boys to play ball. Sometimes ball would roll into her front yard near her front steps, and they would have to go get it. Okay.
Oh, okay. See, that's one thing I did not hear because I was saying I never heard any claims of that. So that's interesting. But still, what is it hurting? They're not knocking on her door. I don't know. I think that's crazy. I mean,
well, some people just don't want to be bothered. I'm weighing all sides of it.
Well, then get away to an area where you can't be bothered. I mean, seriously, if it's that serious, I mean, to think that she's coming outside and throwing skates at a child or throwing them, period, even if the kid wasn't close by.
Where'd you get the skates from?
Isn't that what you read?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, where did you get them from?
I don't know. Maybe they left them in the field while they were playing ball, or maybe they forgot them.
Mm-hmm.
Where did she get their iPad from?
He left that, the kid left that.
Yeah, but so why was she going out there to collect stuff? You don't care about these kids?
Because she's been watching.
Yeah, she's an evil, miserable lady is what she is. I mean, I get everybody's entitled to their own space and their own peace, but come on. No, I don't.
We've seen this happens many times. Just recently, a young black boy shot the neighbor's kids because the ball kept rolling over his side. That was in North Carolina.
That's crazy. That's stupid.
He was tired of the ball rolling in his yard, so he shot him.
And maybe I'm biased because my kid plays all kinds of balls, so I'm used to ball. But I will say, okay, so I can be sitting on my front porch and my son will be bouncing the ball and I can't stand it because it's on the speed. And so I'll be like, Braylon, sorry, God, I just said his name. But I'll have to tell him, I'll say, stop, or I'll just go inside because it is annoying to hear right there at me. But, I don't know. I get used to it as well. So, to think that it had been going on for 2 years, you would have thought that, she would have tried to make some sort of resolution or had a discussion with parents. Like I said, just a level-headed discussion, like possibly she did work from home, discuss like, hey, during these hours, it seems like she was very unreasonable, that there's honestly nothing that they probably would have been able to work out. And the fact that she's going outside and calling these kids racial names, that is absolutely absurd. Crazy.
Well,
and I'm surprised someone hasn't knocked on her door before now.
To say what, Brittany?
Well, if my son come home talking, this crazy lady's calling me this and calling me that, yeah, I'd probably have some things to say.
Mm-hmm. That's why she went there banging on that door like she did. And it didn't turn out in her favor. See, that's why I said to the older man today at the grocery store, you don't know what is going to come of you saying anything. You may actually be in the right in your mind, but that does not mean it's going to turn out in your favor.
Well, and sometimes it's just not your place to say something, in my opinion. I know that everybody, you know what I mean? Everybody's got their opinions, but when it comes to other people's kids, and even if it's not directly affecting, even if it is directly affecting you, sometimes it's just not your place, or there's, a way to go about things. Well, it needs to be addressed. I feel like, there's a way to address things properly. It's all in your delivery, and going outside and calling these kids that name is not the way to start it. It's not. Throwing an umbrella.
That's why I always say it's how you start is how you finish. It's been going on for 2 years, however long, on and off, whatever. I don't know if it's daily, but somebody ought to got tired. Frankly, if I was the kids, I would have just been like, I ain't even going over here knowing she gonna be coming out cussing and fussing. But I know they're children. But some kids will say, well, I ain't going over there because that lady's gonna come out. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and like I said, I have a hard time believing that, even if she went somewhere else, somebody's going to get on her nerves. She just seems to be one of those people.
And she may be. She may be that type. Easily knowing, high strung, don't want to be bothered.
I just couldn't imagine coming out my door and yelling at a kid and saying those things.
Yeah, I guess I would probably have a problem, if it was obstruction or something.
I mean, yeah, if you're knocking a baseball into my door, okay, yeah, I might come out and be like, hey guys, can you be a little bit more careful? If you're going to hit the ball, can you do it over here? Just so you don't hit anything. But I don't know. Like I said, I just feel like there's a way to address things, and she definitely lacks some communication skills.
It was a buildup of that issue, and she popped off when that lady finally came to that door.
And truth be told, there's probably a bigger issue in her life that's,
and it may be.
You never really know.
And what might that be, Brittany?
I'm just saying, you never really know what's going on with somebody either. So, there may be something that's causing her to be.
I told you she was trying to apply for disability, so she may not have been feeling well. She may have been.
She wasn't too disabled to get out there and swing skates.
But I'm just saying she may have been having some health issues, job issues. Now, here comes the noise that's annoying her. It would probably take much.
She'll get her some earbuds. I don't know. I just don't think what she did was appropriate. Period.
Well, you have to take it up with law. These southern states are stand your ground states.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's sad to think that that's on that child's conscience, to know that, I went home and I told my mom she cracked my iPad. And yeah, that's horrible. That is absolutely heartbreaking.
I wish I hadn't said anything.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking.
But this is how I looked at it when they said that. The child said that. This was going to happen irregardless. If it wasn't that day in June, it would have been August, December. You see where I'm going?
Mm-hmm.
It was going to happen because it's gone on too long already. And then the woman's calling the kids nasty names beforehand. That shit's already built up in her to react that way. See?
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate.
It was going to happen. For all we know, she could have shot at the kids if the mother hadn't came banged on the door.
God. Mm.
Now, I'd like to hear what laws they would apply that to, her shooting at the children. And that would have been really interesting. She shot at the kid. Would it still be the same?
Oh, no, I don't think it would probably be the same. I don't know. I think it's great that they're evicting her, and she needs to really choose wisely where she chooses to live next, if she has much of an option. Because I can't, imagine there are too many places that would want her as a tenant.
But imagine she could find somebody. Remember I tell you, somebody always supporting somebody.
Oh yeah, and I believe that.
Find somebody. They would, a private rental place.
But I'm saying she clearly has certain expectations of what she expects. So she needs to, really consider all that when choosing where to live next. And I don't know where you can, like I said, unless you buy some property.
She might have to live somewhere way out, like in a trailer somewhere far and rural.
Well,
where the houses are, spread out. They're not close to one another.
Well, then that sounds like where she needs to be.
Yeah.
Hateful old lady.
Didn't they say something about her taking care of her sister?
Oh, she's disabled.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So she's disabled and the sister's disabled?
I thought she said she was filing for a disability.
Yeah, so if she said, but they also said she was taking care of her sister. So they both were jacked up.
Yeah. Maybe she's mental.
That's probably stress too. Taking care of this person. Now I'm having to go apply for disability, not working. Probably is a combination of things going on with her.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she don't care for black people. Them slaves. Oh,
the Underground Railroad, who says that to a kid?
I never heard that bitch before in my life.
And I do think there were quite a bit of children out there to hear the man talk that I heard. I will admit that. But I don't care. That's still crazy to me. I can't imagine going.
Well, I haven't seen any school-age children their age playing no ball over here. Just a pitter-patter of a 2-year-old.
And I'll say, like, at my son's baseball game this year, there were younger children, I guess, like, siblings of the children that were playing baseball. They did drive me crazy this year. They would literally run up and down and play on the bleachers during practice. They were just waiting on practice to be over. So they would play on the bleachers and they would run up and down. And it was so loud. I was, number one, scared one of them were going to get hurt. Number two, it was annoying. But I just moved. That's just what I did. I just knew didn't want to sit there. And because I didn't want to see anyone get hurt. But I honestly didn't feel, so many times it would come out of my mouth, be careful, be careful. But I was like, I got to move because I don't want to see anybody get hurt. This is crazy that these parents aren't saying anything. Mm-hmm. And and one of them actually did end up falling before the season was over. But
Wow.
a lot of it has to do with the parenting. But it didn't seem like that was the issue with this lady. That the one guy I seen talk, he did seem like he was the one out there, kind of making sure that everything was okay. I don't know. She's crazy, in my opinion.
And I realized she didn't have nothing but the sister. Very few assets, no children. Very interesting.
Yeah, I can't imagine she has a lot of people. Someone that evil, who wants to be around somebody like that?
Wow.
I wonder how many years she's lived there.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's why I think that she was probably there first, and then they came along, and then her peace was ruined by the kids not having nowhere to go, or the parents not taking them anywhere else to play.
Yeah.
Because I think after my kids come to me complaining the first time, I probably would tell them just stay from over there, just to avoid controversy. I'm just not going to just be arguing with somebody and have somebody arguing with my kids, and my kids, feeling unsafe. There have to be an alternative plan for them to go somewhere else to play. Because all this is an exacerbated situation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
2 years. I don't know how often, but it went left. Hello, Joy.
They're probably too scared to go play in that field now, and the lady's gone.
They're probably not going to be over there no way. I don't think their grandmother lived over there.
No, I'm saying there was more than just those kids that played.
That's what I was wondering. Are there other children that were also playing over there?
Yeah, it sounded like a bunch of neighborhood kids would, meet up every day and play there, and the dad would kind of be out there with them, from what I heard in that one interview that he did. And it just makes you wonder, do these kids even feel comfortable now going back out there to play?
Well, they'll have to see who moves in that apartment. Who moves in that apartment and they'll start complaining. The kids keep going back over there playing. The next person might say the same thing. Hey, I want some peace and quiet. Wow, that'd be something. I don't think anybody probably want to move there after that, because they'll know the situation. Well, these kids come over here and they play. And if the landlord has any sense, she'll tell that person, well, I'm sure you heard of the incident that happened here with the woman shooting at the kids. The people will be forewarned.
Elizabeth said she once saw kids running and screaming and rolling down a nearby hill while wedding vows were being exchanged.
Yeah, see, that's why I was saying you have to show people some respect at some point. Rather, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but we have to ask ourselves too, what type of kids were over there playing? Did any of them ever say anything out of the way to her one time, and then she just went ham and using all these, derogatory slurs? Because we do have some kids that are very vulgar and very vulgar. And then you have to ask yourself, how long did the children play over there? Was it ever into the night that the children play unattended? So you have to ask all those questions. But no way am I excusing her behavior as far as the name slurs and stuff. And have to go that far.
Yeah, that's way too much.
She probably is a racist regardless whether the children were over there or not.
Obviously, yeah.
You're using it all the time. That's just how you talk.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Yeah, she's just a racist white lady, but I'm wondering if the kids stayed over there like longer than they should have been. And they should have been like in the house doing homework, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Because as I said, a lot of the children are born to younger parents, and the parents are not watching them. They're not making them mind. Very interesting. What do you have to say about the Kohberger incident before I get off of here? The gag order, the DNA, and the death penalty.
In my opinion, the death penalty, that was pretty much a given.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's guilty, regardless.
What about Xana's mom not wanting it?
Trying to see how I can put this. I can understand.
I was gonna say, let me see if you say what I said.
I can understand her views. I mean, I know a lot of people don't, agree with the death penalty.
Because she stayed in trouble with the law herself.
Possibly, and she maybe, yeah. I didn't know how to really say it, but yeah, maybe. Yeah, that wasn't a surprise to me. They would take the death penalty. I mean, this is crazy. And the night sheets alone, in my opinion. One thing I did hear in that your audio that you're playing that I have never heard before. She said they have GPS from the black box in his car.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. I guess I didn't know that vehicle had that, but maybe they all do. Maybe that's just my ignorance.
Yeah, I kept thinking it was from the phone.
Me too.
That put him out in the different places, an hour out, and the phone pinging back on. That's what I thought. How they got the GPS traction.
Right. So that's interesting because that tells everything. That means that tells when you
That's how they knew how many times he circled and stopped and went up, came back.
Yeah, it'll show putting your car in park, drive, turning your signals on.
They got him coming over there after 3 a.m, hour or so before he allegedly killed the kids. So what were you doing in all that time?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little shocked at all the people that think that he's possibly not guilty because of. I mean,
you always got crazy people. As I said, the thing about true crime is the obvious. You should know that if you got people who committed the crime, there's other people who are walking, talking, who are mimicking this person and similar to the same person that killed these kids, sadly. And if they're not like them, they're supporters of people like Kohberger.
Right.
So it's all the same.
Yeah, but I think, considering, because he just had the, worst luck in the world to think that, he's this innocent guy that the knife sheath with his DNA's under these bodies and that he just happens to drive the same car. No, no. It don't work like that.
Like I said, too, in that live stream, you don't know what's on CCTV footage, doorbell cameras, audio. You don't know as far as eyewitness accounts of how many times somebody may have seen the car in the neighborhood, parts in the surrounding of that house. And something else I want to mention too about that house when I was watching this, I guess it was News Nation, whatever, showing the house, Court TV. The house is so creepy to me, boarded up. They've got a little security box sitting out there on a little roller thing, dolly, whatever. It's creepy. Going around the back of it, you see it boarded up. And it's creepy because you know that some young people live there and they are no longer alive. And you know how they left here. And you think about everything leading up to the moment that they were in that house.
Terrifying.
Confronted by him. It's just it's too much to fathom.
It is.
I mean, looking at that house, yeah, it creeps me out. It to me, it's a broke down version of the Amityville Horror.
Yeah, I mean, that's a horrific story. It truly, truly is. I don't know.
I mean, because my thing is, you can be hurt a multitude of places outside of your home, but when a person decides to violate you in your house, there's no coming back from that. Because that's sacred, your house, your apartment, whatever you live in.
Definitely. Yeah. And I'm surprised that, honestly, there wasn't more DNA found from other people in the house as well. I mean, they say 3 other people or something like that. I'm surprised there wasn't more than that.
It depends on what they checked, how thorough they were checking. Allegedly, it's a party house, so that's why I find it interesting. That's all you have?
But I do.
Listen, allegedly they had company that Friday, so really you only have the DNA of one person. And his on the sheath. And the other one's outside on the glove.
How's
that possible?
I don't know.
Allegedly, people kept saying, "Oh yeah, they had a party that Friday, and it was hundreds of people there, 100 people." Okay, then why do you only have DNA of him on the sheath, one other person's DNA inside, and then one DNA on the outside of a glove outside?
I thought it said 3 DNAs, one being him, and 2 others that were found near the bodies.
No, one's outside and one's inside. because they said something about the glove outside.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. The infamous Chris Madonna glove, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
That's not a lot of people, considering if I'm supposed to believe that they had a party that previous, the day before the deaths.
I do find strange that they're saying there's no DNA in his car.
Mm.
I think that's odd, but.
Well, that's why I said, did he change outside after killing? He already had a bag sitting outside, and he changed naked outside.
And he probably did, but I still find it strange that somehow something wasn't transferred into the car. But, you know.
So listen, do you believe he changed outside that house?
Yes, I do.
In the dark?
Yes, ma'am.
That's crazy as hell.
Well, how? He did what he did to these 4 people. You can't tell me that if he didn't change, that there wouldn't be something in that car.
You leave behind things when you kill people, on your shoes, on your clothes, on all that.
Right, but they're saying, did they not say that there was no...
No, we don't even know all the evidence they have. That's why I have a problem with all this information. I refuse to believe this is all the state has. Come on now.
Oh, I don't believe that's all they have either. But I thought, because this was a court filing from the defense. So
this is how I feel. This is all the defense.
Unless they've not provided it to them.
Yes.
But at the same time, by law, they have to provide them with everything they have.
We know that, but we also know that the state does not show their hand before court. That's the purpose of having a gag order.
I guess what I'm saying is if there's DNA in the vehicle, that has to be turned over before court.
Okay. Well, court is not until October, Brittany.
True.
And that's why I said, how do we know that everything's still not being tested? You're already talking about so much of data on phones. That house was a nice size house. So you're talking about scraping shit from top to bottom.
Oh, yeah, with the amount of phones, from
vacuuming up stuff, trying to get all hair fibers and fibers off clothes. And I can't say from November or whenever the murders happened, it's not even a year yet.
Yeah, it's been, 6 months?
And then it has to be sent off to a certain lab. When you're in the rural America, they usually don't have forensic labs to do the testing. Then you got to count the backlog of people getting DNA and things tested. How long it's taking to even get it processed? What's the lineup they're in to get it processed? You understand what I'm saying? Depending on how many murders and stuff they've got in that state and where they sent the DNA.
Yeah, and it's just possible they've not provided that to them yet versus there isn't any, because I find that so strange that, like I said, even if he changed, I still am going to find it strange that there was nothing in the car. By no means do I think he is not guilty. Let me be clear there. But yeah, I think it's just possibly they haven't gotten them all the information yet that they'll have to give. Because especially with all the phone data, if you count the amount of people, that's a lot of stuff.
Well, when he was running around late that night, you believe what? He was discarding the knife and the clothes.
I definitely think it's possible. Because I just can't imagine that he's driving around in these bloody clothes either. I don't think that...
Well, it's dark. Nobody knows I killed them, so I really can be in my car in bloody clothes and then go somewhere far off, park down a desolate road, trail, and change out of those clothes. Next day, get up, clean my car real good. Nobody knows.
Maybe.
Because you have to remember, he did mess up by leaving the sheath. So I can't sit here and say that he didn't mess up by where he changed his clothes and what he left behind inside of the car.
Oh, yeah. And then it still is mind-blowing to me that he came back the next morning.
Exactly.
That is so crazy.
What innocent person comes back? What are you doing over there? You don't know the people. They've got you pinging over there God knows how many times. You got a ticket. As soon as you touch down on Washington Soul over there one night at 10 o'clock, you get a ticket. You was
Well, that's kind of my thing, though, about him changing clothes is he does not have a very good track record with the police. He seems to get pulled over a lot. So I feel like he would change clothes.
He got pulled over his very first time stalking them. So that's why I said, you want me to sit here and believe he didn't leave behind something? Of course he did. Because he was stupid enough to go run over there stalking the kids as soon as he enrolled in school. That's what made me think he already had scoped those kids out maybe before he even moved out to Washington.
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. He's very crazy. I'd love to know what was going through his mind. God, the next morning, was he expecting to see a police presence? When he gets there, there's no police presence. I don't know. It's crazy. He can throw nice shoes, mask, and a one-piece jumpsuit.
I don't know.
See, I do picture Jeff, him wearing something like some sort of like jumpsuit coverall type. Especially with him saying they found that Walmart receipts for some sort of Dickies apparel.
I think he also had like a hoodie or something in it.
Mm-hmm. And he could have had the hoodie, up over his hair, which, would keep them from grabbing his hair. But, that's also another thing. If you would think with them saying some had defensive wounds, you would think there's something, under somebody's nails or I don't know.
Yeah, see, that's another thing. I mentioned that earlier. You don't know what DNA is up under the victim's fingernails. They said some of them fall back, so there has to be some DNA under their fingernails, whether they had fake nails or their regular nails.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think there'll be more DNA that comes out.
Yeah, that's why I don't understand all this complaining from the defense, because there's no way I believe this is everything. There ain't no way. Too many victims for there not to be something else. He killed 4 people. He's left behind something. And the fact that they picked up a latent shoe print right in front of Dylan's door, that should tell you something too. Well, who does it belong to?
Well, who's to say it doesn't belong to one of those people that came in the house afterwards?
Okay, but you have to ask yourself also, which direction is the print?
They said I think it's in the direction. Well, they did make it sound like it followed Dylan's story as if he was exiting the home. Mm-hmm. That print, if I remember correctly from the way it was read.
That's what you have to ask yourself. Her door sits like in that little small cubby hole of a hall. So now you got to ask yourself, was he standing there facing her, or the shoe was to the side walking by?
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions to ask.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions, that's for sure, when it comes to the whole Dylan thing. I don't know. I just need to leave that part alone. Because at the end of the day, I can't see in a
small space. He walked by and didn't say anything. That's too creepy for me. That's no different than this little small hallway I got right here. Somebody's in this house and they walk right by me after killing my friend around the hall, and they don't say nothing to me laying in here, and they pass me. Why not? What's special about you not killing me?
I just have to believe he didn't see her. That's the only thing that would make sense to me. Still doesn't explain to me the long period of time without calling the cops. I guess maybe she just went to bed. I don't know. That's also true.
Who could sleep if they're thinking this person has done something that's causing somebody to cry and then whimper?
She didn't care, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling people. You don't know these people. You just assume they lived together that everybody got along and everything was peachy. I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
I don't know. It's really...
That's why it's strange him walking about the room, considering he's killed 4 people. That's where a lot of people, you have to have some kind of sense about yourself. That doesn't make any sense. You just slaughtered 4 people and you're going to give one a pass. Come on now. Why? Why her?
I don't know.
Because that space from her door sits facing that little small hallway. He walked right into that, what I would call just that short hallway, and she's standing there. There's no way he didn't see her standing there, unless it was pitch black and she was looking out the door. And she's still a white woman. You still will see the outline of her face, even in the dark.
Yeah, frozen shock phrase. Dylan say that or did the Ellie? I don't know, because I don't know about that. And then I don't know. There's so many questions with that. I can't. I don't know.
Elaborate.
And she also said that she yelled out the door. Did she say she yelled out the door, shut up one time?
A couple times. Mm-hmm.
And, maybe that he thought that was maybe if he heard that, which I'm assuming that she yelled it loud enough to be heard.
He's in the same house.
Right. And I mean, maybe he thought that was Xana or Ethan, when he came downstairs and seen them. That's to say if they were last. I don't know. This is where I really get confused. They say that there's a camera next door that picks up a whimper, a loud thump.
Mm-hmm.
That's loud. If a camera is picking that up from a house next door, that's loud.
Y'all got to remember, these are old houses. The house wasn't insulated.
Even still, if it's not properly insulated, it's somebody in that same house doesn't realize something's going on that's wrong.
Nancy Grace said it best. When the night was still, she could hear somebody's baby fucking crying in the building behind her. So that should let you know about insulation.
I guess what I'm saying, I just find it hard to believe.
Say if the window was up or down, even though it's winter, people still, sometimes have their windows open. But that's what I keep trying to tell people. You can hear things in the dead of night versus daytime.
Oh, and I agree.
Nighttime, things echo at night because it's quiet.
I just find it hard to believe that this camera picks up these noises, but someone in the house doesn't realize something serious is going on.
Well, that's her version. It's a matter of, do you believe her version? She knew something was going on because she kept opening and closing the door. But I'm being interrogated by the police. I don't have to let them know anything. Because at this point, I have to have my motherfucking P's and Q's in order. I can't let on that I think I know something, heard something, ask not to be implicated, you know what I'm saying, in the crime. Because we're the only ones in here. It's survival of the fittest.
It's just odd.
I find it strange he walked by and didn't do anything to her. Because whether you want to call it visual snow or he was in a fog, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very strange. I mean, it's one thing. Okay, I guess maybe I'd feel a little different if it was like I heard these noises and all this stuff. I yelled out my door, whatever. I closed it and I went to sleep. Mm-hmm. But for her to actually see him kind of puts it to a completely different level for me. Mm-hmm. Because I can almost see, it's hard. I don't know, maybe I can't. But maybe dismissing the noises for, somebody's arguing or whatever. I don't know. She's crying because she's fighting with her boyfriend. I don't really care. I'm going to bed. Y'all shut up. That type thing. Maybe dismissing some of that. But then when you see this man cloud and black, and then, something's wrong. Something is wrong. And I don't care how many people came in and out of that house, and it was a party house. I think that would have If I wasn't alarmed, by the noises, I would have definitely been then.
Well, what does she know? In the chat, somebody says she knows way more. What does she know?
I don't think she knows way more. I don't think that she does. I think that'll be found out. And the only thing about the noise canceling headphones, because I could see that as a possibility, but then at the same time, why would she be getting up to tell them to be quiet? Why would she have ever gotten up at all? She wouldn't have heard anything. I don't know.
Well, obviously she was either trying to fall asleep or awakened by the noise.
I don't know. I feel like he definitely did not see her, though. I don't feel like he spared her life. I feel like he didn't see her.
Mm.
But, what do I know?
Well, then that goes to show, as what we've already seen, that he made numerous mistakes.
Oh, I mean, yeah, because then there's a whole other body downstairs that you didn't know about.
Mm-hmm.
And, a part of me feels like that.
All that's creepy. Switching the bedrooms, everybody thinking they go all on the bottom and they weren't. All that was just creep me out. Reading that girl saw him. That's just too much to digest.
Yeah, that's all very strange. I mean, a part of me thinks that he, had possibly, studied the layout of the home or maybe possibly been in it before. Mm-hmm. But then you would think that if he's, I guess that's where I'm confused. I don't know if he went in with I don't feel like he went in with the intent to kill everyone. If he could have got out with maybe only doing what he did upstairs, a part of me thinks maybe that's how that just would have went. But then.
Yeah, but see, going around that kitchen, that's like you have knowledge of somebody else's room around there. You can't see Xana's room from coming in that back door. You don't know what's around that corner until you walk around there.
Right. And then why did she call somebody before she called the cops? That's so strange to me.
Because you already probably did see and hear everything that went on. And you didn't want to get up and walk through that house alone.
But
that's the thing I can think of.
But I just can't imagine thinking that anybody can get to me. I mean, I guess there are people, that live nearby, so maybe that is true. Someone could get to her faster than a cop. But as far as my safety, I just don't know that I would think.
He came back, so that goes to show you really were never safe in there any damn way, because he just killed people with you in the house. He walks by you, you don't say nothing. You don't call the police after seeing him, even after hearing the whimpering and all that. You allegedly called out or called the girls or something, no answer, whatever, however it went. She knows way more. That's the reason why those people were over at that house.
If she would have called. She could have saved her roommates. Okay, so as a parent, that's one thing that I think I would always hold inside, and knowing that, I know they say that it was so horrific that they probably could not have been saved, but that would eat me alive to know that someone did stay in that house for 8 hours, and just the thought of there could have been a chance that my child could have been saved would drive me great. I mean, and I'm sure, whatever the situation, no doubt she's beating herself up. She's probably living her own hell. For sure. There's no way she's living a normal life. I don't know that I believe that.
She didn't mind running out in the dead of winter in shorts.
Yeah, see, I remember that too, now that you say that.
That was strange to me. Running out, trying to catch pneumonia, because you knew those reporters were out there. That's how I feel. She knew they were out there.
Coming down the stairs, he may have spotted Xana heading into her.
After what she went through, there's no way she didn't peep out the window of the door first. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I imagine myself being so terrified that I couldn't speak, and not even if I thought that he was headed towards the sliding glass door, to go out. I still see myself as being too scared to call 911 and speak. I see myself dialing 911 and just laying my phone down, knowing that they're going to ping my phone and they're going to be here. Because I feel like I would be too scared to speak, not being confident that he is out of the house. And if he truly, I just saw him, I don't know if he saw me. So I don't know that he's truly out of this house. I would probably, I don't know. I see myself as just calling 911 and sitting the phone down.
That's why I believe she knew something was awry and she chose not to call for help. And the next morning she got up and probably notified Bethany and whomever and had them come in. She knew something went down, but she didn't do anything.
Jeff, that's a really good point, because he says he wondered if, when they walked the dog, if he slipped in through the door while they were walking the dog, because it was said that I think it was Olivia, the sister, was the one that found that they came home at a certain time. I think it was like 1:45 instead of 11. I don't know, 1:57 or something like that. And that they walked the dog when they got home. So that's a very good possibility. But I don't know, what time did it say? I can't remember what time they said he left his house.
Well,
yeah, I'd be under the window, under the bed. I'd be somewhere. I'd be scared to move to make a noise. That's for sure.
All that confusion of who's on the ground, all that. There shouldn't have been any confusion with the 911 call.
So it's more of say it. I can see a shocked phase. Okay, I can see that, because I'm saying I wouldn't want to move. I wouldn't want to make a noise, but I would know that I've got to call somebody. And as far as 8 hours passing,
the DoorDash and all that, I don't think they locked the door. For all we know, the glass door may not even have a lock on it. So you don't know. You don't know how these kids navigate it. You don't know if they lock windows, doors, or anything.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions about the DoorDash too, but there's a lot of things. There's so many things that I have questions on, but I have no doubt that he's the one that did it, in my opinion. With, I don't think by chance his, DNA is on that knife sheath and it was just, planted there. No. I don't think that at all. But it's such a horrific situation. I mean, it truly is. But yeah, I'm not surprised about the death penalty at all.
Oh yeah, you're going to get that, considering the brutality and the number of victims.
Right, and then you have to think that there's so many things that are strange. I've always questioned the dad. Was this a planned trip? Why did you choose? There's so many things I have questions about.
Now, one thing I can say about this story is, like many of the true crime stories, is the obvious. You don't know people. And he seemed to have been navigating towards the macabre as soon as he touched down. That's just obvious. And I won't doubt that he applied to that school to be near them. He may have discovered them on IG a year or two before. That's why News Nation brought that content up not too long ago, that he may have had some contact with them before he even enrolled at the school. So you don't even know when he actually reached out to the girls, or one of the girls, because they haven't told us how old the DM message is. Because for him to be already over there on the campus getting a ticket, in Moscow in August, that tells you he was already at work. That would lead me to think possibly he found them maybe even before he came to Washington State.
Yeah, that's very possible. Jeff, what are they discussing tomorrow in court? Indiana asks, where you headed? Ryan says, we're going to get food. It was interesting. I think he said Thai food. Why wouldn't you have said we're headed home? Or
I ain't got to tell you I'm going home. If I'm getting ready to go get some food, maybe that's what they really were going to do.
I don't know. It always pisses me off when they ask that anyway. Where are you headed? Where are you headed?
And all that tracking him is strange too, because some are going to say, why would you have an inkling that he could be a suspect and let him travel that far? He could have been apprehended and talked to and investigated before going home.
Right. Why was the shelter in place
the make of the car was made at the end of what was the month that the kids were killed? October or November?
November.
Okay, so the end of November, they had already got an idea about the car in Washington. I think it was the 26th, something like that. One of the security guys at the other school made the car over there parked. And then they passed the message along.
Yeah, I just find it strange that they even lifted the shelter in place for the school so quickly. You know what I mean? I mean, and then to think that he was over there teaching school, especially where Xana's sister. I mean, he may not have even known that.
Well, if he's watched social media, they all took pictures together. I don't see how he wouldn't. I can't see that would not be privy to information.
Right. Or even, any other child. He didn't need to be around anybody. It's just strange. But I do remember there was a graduation, right? Wasn't there a graduation before he was arrested? And there was a statement made at that time, like, there's still somebody out here. I forget how it was read. I just remember it was strange because I was thinking, you
got arrested to the end of December.
Was he present at the candlelight vigil? I've seen a few pictures going around. Now that I see him, I don't think that was him.
Yeah, some people argued and said, no, that's not him. But like I tell people, a person wants to be a part of the show. So I won't doubt that he did go over there to the campus and walk around the gymnasium.
And it's strange to think he brought it up to one of the neighbors and said, "Oh, what did he say to the neighbor? It seemed like it was a crime of passion."
Yeah. How can it be a crime of passion and you don't even know the victims?
God, how terrifying to find out he was your neighbor.
Yeah, period.
He's sick. He really, really is.
That's why
I can't imagine him being my child.
That he had followed them girls long before coming to Washington, and that might have been the motivation to apply to school down. You don't know. Because people are suggestions on these sites. So anybody can come up as a suggestion. And you start trying to follow them and look at their photographs. Nobody has to know that you're looking.
Yeah, but then once he would have had, I just would love to know where he came in contact with them. Because think about it, finding them on Facebook or Instagram doesn't give you the location to where they live. So,
yeah, but some people listen, girl. People put their damn locations on them damn IG. You got the option, Brittany, when it says tag location. People actually put their location on there. Moscow, Idaho, University.
Well, no, I get that, but
how long do you think it would take to find her? Once I know that you're in Moscow, Idaho.
I don't know.
But I'm just saying, how long do you think it would take?
To find someone's residence, maybe not long, since he maybe could just, I don't know.
Because people talk a lot.
Or possibly went into that restaurant, followed them home.
These kids take a lot of pictures. You really don't have to go do anything when people take pictures. All you got to do is just pay attention to the picture.
Right. You
don't know what's in the background of the picture. You don't know if they're going live, if they're talking, what they're talking about when they're going live. That's how people get found. It's by talking. And what you have in the background. It might be a water tower in the back, and I can see, oh, she lives over there.
Yeah. Possibly just taking a picture outside in front of their house.
I can listen. I have watched the news. I've seen pictures of somebody I met once on the site. I knew where he stayed from the background of the apartments. We were living in the same fucking town. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yeah, that's possible.
And matter of fact, we were living down the street from one another. Now put that on paper. Because your background tells the story. You're in a small demographic. You get around a lot. You know the monuments. You know the stores. So I don't have to know you from a can of paint. All I can do is look at the picture.
Psycho, yeah. He's crazy. God, he really is crazy. And to think that he said when he got arrested he was going to be exonerated. I don't think so, buddy.
Yeah.
Hey, why hasn't your lawyer asked for a bond for you, huh? Because I sure haven't heard anything about them asking for a bond.
Well, they ain't gonna. You know they won't ask for no bond. Once you kill 4 people, there ain't gonna be no bond. No. Hell no. Not the way he killed those kids. And it's not gonna matter if it was a knife, it was a gun. You're not getting a bond once you kill just multiple people. That's it. You are in there. You and your little friend Lori Vallow, y'all ain't going nowhere.
Now, okay, so speaking of Lori Vallow, how interesting to me. They don't seek the death penalty for Lori Vallow.
Yeah, because she's a woman. I believe that. That's why. They don't think probably people will vote to kill her.
Shit. Maybe not, but.
Well, I said, well, you might be underestimating the great people of Idaho. Why not? I bet you they're going to offer it for Chad. I bet you.
I think he'll get a deal. I think he'll take a deal. Yeah, that back parking lot, Scott, or Jeff H is talking about the that parking lot. That was very creepy parking lot. I mean, he almost looked like he could have pulled in there and parked and sat and watched, that they were out having a party at their house, being out on their little patio. It almost seemed like, that would be a great place to sit and spy, honestly.
But something still led him to the address. So he's in their DM first, more than likely.
There's something, I don't know. That is terrifying to think.
And as they said, it may go back a year or more. So that's why I said you don't know if he found them on IG and made his way out there to stalk them deliberately. His intentions was to do just what he did. Apply to school, neighboring school, got accepted, and then start stalking them. Whomever.
Crazy. It's crazy to think.
Because if they can show that he was making contact with any of the girls a year ahead of time, that means he did plan this. Because he did not live in Idaho. He did not live in Washington. So how do you end up at the school if you've already DM'd somebody from halfway across the country? Stay woke. That's why I tell people they don't pay attention to stuff.
Well, yeah, especially, if he's purchased
that for a reason. Somebody's leaking that information out.
Once that knife was purchased, in my opinion, that it was planned.
Yeah, so he could have bought the knife a year or two ahead of time for this event. I'm apply to school out here. So you don't even know how long he was out there. When did he touch down? Did he come out 2 or 3 months ahead of time to secure the apartment? I mean, you've got to do something to get the apartment. See, that's the stuff people don't think about. You didn't ever even ask, well, how did he get the apartment at the damn school? He just signed up and somebody said, oh, we got a key waiting for you at apartment number. So you don't know.
It was probably part of the program with he being a, God, I can't remember what they call it.
Teacher's assistant.
Yeah, that was probably part of the program. But yeah, I mean, I think they said maybe he had lived there about 6 months before the murders, but he probably did maybe visit the area, visit the school.
Exactly.
Yes, it is very disturbing. The whole situation is so disturbing.
And that's the whole point, that if this was pre-planned from a man from across the country, nobody is exempt from this happening to them, because people usually stalk people in their peripheral. Okay, so imagine somebody stalking somebody from all the way across a whole damn country and then make their way over there to deliberately kill them. That's deep.
I mean, yeah, but because before he was arrested, I didn't necessarily feel like it was going to be, the boyfriend or anything like that. I thought it was possibly someone they knew, or, one of those apartments. The apartments that kind of face the house. This was just crazy.
Yeah, that's why I never claimed who the killer was. I didn't get into that he said, she said stuff, because there was too many kids involved to just say I think it's this person. And how the hell can you think of it being anybody when, one, they're college students, it's 4 people dead, they're surrounded by apartments and houses. It could have been anybody.
Yeah, imagine being the poor ex-boyfriend, being accused.
Yeah, all the people that everybody accused and put on blast on YouTube videos, and you ought to feel like a fool right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he feels horrible enough knowing that, she was calling his phone and he didn't answer, and
And just imagining the house itself, it was telling the story, sitting there quiet in the night, 4 people bleeding out, and nobody's there to help them, and there's 2 other people alive in the house.
And it's crazy, especially when you put together the grub truck video. That is so sad to see them standing there and laughing, and
the whole time the night's been planned out, and they don't have no idea. They have no idea. They're going to die that night.
Yeah, that's horrible. That's so sad.
That's why I said you have to be aware of your surroundings. You have to pay attention to stuff. You have to pay attention to stuff. Like tonight when I came in this place, it's just, an eerie feeling coming in alone, and I'm looking at everything to make sure everything's sitting where it's supposed to sit. I'm looking at the door handles because you're supposed to pay attention to that stuff. You need to make sure you don't see no glass on the floor, that somebody's broken, and that means you're going to have to run your ass back out of there. You have to pay attention. And see, that's the problem. They don't pay attention to stuff. They're coming in, geeked up, want to be on the phone talking, and can't even put their stuff away because they're too busy wanting to see what's on Facebook. You better pay attention when you're walking in your house. You don't need to be talking on the phone when you walk in your house. You need to have it dead silent so you can hear. You need to be trying to see if you smell anything odd. I know somebody's been in mine because I know my body odor and I know what the room smell like. And I know when somebody's been in here.
Right.
Some people leave a faint odor. You understand what I'm saying?
That's another thing. You would think there would have been a smell in the house.
Well, blood does smell. Trust me, I know. Because I've been in a house where somebody killed themselves and they shot themselves on the upstairs bedroom in a townhouse, and you could smell it when you walked in the front door. So let me tell you, the house had to reek of iron.
Oh yeah. Have they said anything about the cameras in the courtroom yet?
I haven't heard anything. I don't know. Is this going to be a federal trial?
I don't think so. I don't know.
That's the only time I know they say they don't allow them in federal trials. I cannot believe it's late. These people are still up. It's sick.
Calm down.
I'm just saying.
They knock on your door.
Out on the nobody don't come down here. But she's been out there coughing and hacking, and I thought, well, I guess she didn't put her minions to bed. Let me stop. That's so ugly at me. Put your children to bed, and we're out now coughing and hacking. So what's wrong? You got tuberculosis or you're chiefing? Take your pick.
Bless her.
You heard the cameras are going to be permitted 99% sure. Jeff, how do you know that?
I hope so.
Was there anything else you want to say before I tap out of here?
No, ma'am. That's it.
All right, everybody. It's a 2-part live. Thank you, Miss Brittany.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome, honey. First part of this live is pertaining to Bryan Kohberger. Information about the gag order, state seeking the death penalty, and his attorneys are saying there's no connection to he and the young ladies in the house. We will see what all evidence is available. Naturally, the state is not going to show their hand. Yes, they have to share information with the defense, but that does not mean we as the public will be privy to that information. I do believe they have the right person in custody. That's my personal feeling about Mr. Kohberger. And as I said, I won't doubt that he stalked these children from the East Coast and possibly deliberately applied to school in Washington to exact this heinous crime. Because if indeed they can show that he was in the inbox of these young ladies, or one or however many, a year or so before, then that means he was stalking them from Pennsylvania. And that's most definitely diabolical. To exact the plan to attend school, apply to school, get into the school, and then stalk the girl, whomever, until murdering all of them, and then leaving two behind. Whether you want to believe it was deliberate or not, it's still strange. Too damn strange and scary as hell. So my message to all of you, no matter your age, you need to be aware of your surroundings. You need to check your windows and your doors coming in and leaving out. You need to always go outside your home and check your windows and doors. And as most security experts would say, try breaking into your own house from the outside and see if you can get in. If you can get in, then that means a perpetrator can get in. Because when you live in older places, the window panes are faint, paper thin. It would take nothing to just pop it with your hand and break it out. And now someone has made way into your home, whether you're in there or gone. We take a lot for granted living in our own space. And some people believe this ideology, well, I don't bother anybody. Nobody has any reason to come after me or do anything to me. The perpetrator doesn't care about that. He or she or they are looking for whatever they're looking for. And it has nothing to do with how you think. Your opinions don't matter. And it's obvious on this fateful morning, the opinions of 4 kids did not matter. And I do believe it is going to be very shocking if evidence comes out that he found them on social media a year or two before moving to Washington State. Because the fact that he had already got a ticket in August? If he just got there, July or August, now you got to figure out where and how did he find the girls to be over there at their house stalking them. That's some very interesting information and scary as hell. I want to thank you for your time. My movie suggestion for the week is The Assistant, now starring on Tubi. The lead actress also starred in The Stepmother 1 and 2 on Tubi. I will bring you another suggestion for the weekend at the end of the week. Please check my community board for said polls and updated stories. Second part of this live is pertaining to Susan Lorincz. White female killed a black woman. It is alleged that there was issues 2.5 years between the children and this white lady. She called them racial slurs, threw skates at them, swung umbrella. Variances of different stories and versions. And now the state has downgraded the charge to manslaughter instead of murder. No first degree, no second degree. Do you believe the charge is appropriate? Will she just get probation or will she get prison time? How will she plea? And how far is this stand your ground law going to go with people just being able to pop off and shoot people? If you'd like to donate to this great network, $BigAngie 129 Cash App, stickers and chats are welcome during the live stream. Thank you all so much for your time. Thank you, Miss Brittany, for coming up. I will be back later with more stimulating conversation. I will possibly resume my conversation pertaining to the Titan sub that imploded down in the ocean last Sunday. I'll try to bring you an update pertaining to that information and any other breaking news. Please check my community board and take the polls pertaining to the questions, because I ask questions pertaining to the stories that I cover on this network. You all have a wonderful week. Prayers for the little ones. Mind the children. If you see something, say something. Be a part of the solution and not the problem. You have been listening to The Vault XL. Thank you, Jeff.